We've been planning on doing a podcast for a long time.
I was just about to say, yeah, this is like fucking 2 years in the making.
Honestly, since you moved here, I think
this
is when.
is literally 2 years in the making.
That's crazy.
I mean,
just put it together.
I mean, I mean, we definitely didn't have a setup like this going on. Like,
no.
Very basic.
Yeah, what we were thinking of was kind of just like a one camera, like
right, like just a widescreen type of setup. This is nice.
Yeah, this way, I feel like it looks more professional. You know?
I mean, this is legit. Like even the table looks like we got a Joe Rogan situation going on.
Absolutely, yeah, the Joe Rogan table.
Call me Joe the way I'm Rogan on this mic right now.
Damn right.
Who said that?
Sounds a little gay. All right, so I guess let's start this podcast.
Let's start it up.
So I guess we should introduce who you guys are.
Yeah, for sure. Cole, you can go first and do the honors.
Oh, we're going?
Yeah, we've been recording. Yeah,
we're starting.
Yeah, so my name's Colten Bunda. I mean, Adam, we've known each other
on Instagram for a long time.
Yeah, probably since we were teenagers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were DMing back then, and then I saw that you posted, it was a couple years ago, you posted on your Instagram story that you're moving out to Scottsdale.
Moving to Arizona, yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I live here. And so you said where you were moving was literally like 10 minutes away from where I was living in Tempe.
Well, as a matter of fact, are you done with your introduction?
Oh, yeah. They know.
They know. So my name's Edward Katsnelson. Do we look in the camera?
Yeah.
All right. So my name's Edward Katsnelson, functional health coach. Very
official.
Good friend of Adam Katz. Very official. Matter of fact, the reason we even moved to Scottsdale was because of you, because we were going to move to Phoenix.
Oh, shit.
And then I think you didn't Adam DM you on Instagram, and he was just like, oh, you don't want to live in Phoenix?
It was something
we were talking
that,
about like
yeah.
things like that, yeah.
Well, we were looking at, because coming from New York, we were like, all right, we want to be like downtown, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we were looking at downtown Phoenix.
You know what? You're right. Yeah, you told
we
me
were looking
like
at downtown Phoenix, and you were like, don't go to downtown Phoenix. You're like, go to Scottsdale.
I do remember that.
And honestly, I wouldn't live anywhere else in regards to like living in Arizona. But yeah, it's been super dope here, and since we moved, we've just been planning.
And the coincidence too, it's because like I didn't even know who you were at first. Like I think I probably saw you on Instagram, but like I only knew Colten, right. And then he was like, oh, by the way, my buddy Eddie's coming also, and I was like, all right, sick. And then we meet, and I was like, oh shit, like we're all best friends now.
We literally moved
immediately,
here, like without ever being here, without knowing what's going on, and it just happened to work out perfectly well. So
absolutely,
sometimes things are meant to be in that kind of way.
Yeah, no, definitely, and we ended up training together, and
everything really.
You weren't here alone. That's like the biggest thing. I know you wanted to get out of New York. That's where you guys moved from. Yeah. And I'm glad I could also like bring my circle also to you. Me, Chelsea, and then
big time. I mean, now it's like we have this like family dynamic to where like if somebody needs anything, like we're there for each other, and it works out really well. I mean, a lot better than what it was in New York. And if anyone from New York is listening, which camera I'm looking at. If anyone from New York is listening, highly recommend that you get the fuck out. Fuck that place. Absolutely horrible for your mental health.
I mean, like even from a health perspective, like not to dive into that too quick, but living in New York, you're almost guaranteed to be unhealthy to a certain extent. I mean, majority of the year you get no sunlight. I mean, what client was it who their vitamin D was what? Like,
all of them, everybody. I mean, like I've seen
like
somebody with like a 9, like I've seen a 13.
Yeah. Also, just think about like the stress. I feel like living, in the city in New York, there's just like constant, noise, like noise pollution, and then, I feel like just like the hustle of like, just New York plus like being able to park places, and like I feel like you've been talking about like there was a bunch of stupid fees all the time.
I mean, dude, there's a reason why everyone's just pissed off all the time.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a matter of very simple day-to-day life things. You don't have to think about living here as opposed to there. So like you mentioned, the parking here, you pull up to a store, you just park. Which
you just park your car, yeah.
For me is like completely foreign. And like I'll get asked that a lot, like do I get annoyed of the fact that Arizona is a lot slower than New York is? And I always say the same thing. Personally, for me, I would rather be moving really fast in a slower paced environment versus having to kind of be in this fight or flight type of state on a daily basis because you're living in a fucking concrete jungle.
and how that affects your health, how that affects your bodybuilding.
Right. I mean, some people love it. You know, some people love it, and you know.
But even again from the health perspective, like you're not. There's no nature, for example. You know what I mean?
You got what? You got a park, Central Park or whatever it's called
in Manhattan. Yeah.
Central Park. I mean, dude, if you want to call like the homeless people and the raccoons and coyotes as nature.
You don't have Flagstaff and Sedona.
No, we don't have that. We have like upstate New York where you go up and you really can't see shit because everything's covered in trees. You know, there's some beautiful spots in New York State, like for sure. There's beautiful places everywhere, but it's nothing.
I mean,
it's the concrete jungle.
Upstate's deep though too. It's like your everyday life. If you're in Manhattan, Brooklyn, like it's just buildings and concrete. You know, that's horrible for you.
Yeah, it's not natural, really.
Where we were, where the gym was in Coney Island, where he grew up, you can go to the beach. But I mean, I'm originally from PA, right outside of Philly. So I've never been to a beach. I grew up going to the Jersey Shore, like Wildwood, Ocean City, whatever. I've never seen a beach like Coney Island where you're watching rats this big run across the sand.
Yeah, you're stepping through syringes. It's a lot like, from what I hear, at least like Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you walk down the boardwalk and there's rats running down the boardwalk, and they slip through the cracks of the boardwalk. It's disgusting.
But the bottom line is, like, I mean, the shit sucks, and that's why people are leaving. That's why you see so many people from California moving to Arizona now.
Don't come to Arizona though.
Yeah, don't. We're full. Here. We're full. Arizona's closed. There's nothing to see here.
But you mentioned you had a gym, so I mean, obviously I know that. But what obviously, like, I could ask, what was it like owning a gym? But like, how would it be owning a gym out here in Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tempe area versus how it was owning a gym in Brooklyn? How would it be different, do you think?
I think it'd be sunshine and rainbows out here.
I think it'd be a lot more enjoyable just for the fact that, I mean, the first thing that you got to bring up is just the costs.
Yeah.
Like how much it costs to actually open and operate a facility like that. In New York, everything's more expensive, from like electricity to just rent to any kind of maintenance that you have to do. I think it'd be better here. There's probably a better community for that here, because the big difference between Arizona and New York, in Arizona, people stay in shape. So like people of all ages, you see, like even like our community, you go to that like back path where the little trail is. And dude, like I'll come out, walk Sade, 5:30, 6 a.m. and there's people on their bikes and there's people walking and jogging, and it's all ages, and people here stay fit and they stay active. It's like an important thing. In New York, 7 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year, you just cover up, and it's so cold that you don't give a shit what you look like. People let themselves get fat because you need the extra insulation.
That makes sense.
You need a little
survival
bit
reason. Yeah,
so
that's their excuse.
It's I don't know if opening another gym is in the cards out here, only if it was like maybe like a hobby project where we all decided like, we want to open a facility.
But that's not going to be like, what makes us wealthy, compared to like coaching and every single other avenue, that is available. I mean, owning a gym, I feel like would not be the best way to make money unless you already have a bunch of money.
It's very unforgiving, dude. Because
it's very,
especially during the years where you're building, and it's different if you can open up a gym, right? Hire a whole team of trainers, manage the team of trainers, run the gym, whatever it is you need to do. But in those building years, especially in New York, where it's so difficult, when you're the one in there on your feet, 12 plus hours a day, 7 days a week, it's very unforgiving. And a lot of times you can have great clients, you could have people that appreciate you, but they don't necessarily understand what's really going into it. And that also ties into like, would it be better having that same type of business out here where people are nicer, more appreciative? That's where it would create a thing where it is better out here.
And what I will say, the main contrast between owning a gym, working with people in person, because other than like we would work with people in person, we had trainers, it was that kind of business model where it was brick and mortar, and compared to doing online coaching and helping people with that kind of platform, I noticed that people get a lot better results working online, and I noticed that it's a different type of, you're allowing people to create some level of autonomy, so they're learning. You're not holding their hand. It's not a thing of, okay, I went to the gym, I saw my trainer, I checked the box, and now I could eat whatever the fuck I want afterwards, or like, it doesn't matter. They're not really thinking about it. Here, it's where I'm giving you all the tools, like they're being provided absolutely everything they need to do. the training, the nutrition, the supplement protocols, whatever it is, but it's still on them to go and do that.
Absolutely. How often do you see people that have a personal trainer at the gym that are spending, $100 a session, 3 days a week? That's over $1,200 a month.
Easily, yeah.
On just a personal trainer that puts you through a workout, sure, but then you just, like you said, you go out to eat after that, and then you're not following a structured diet from that trainer that you're spending over $1,000 a month on. It really doesn't seem worth it to have a personal trainer nowadays, unless that's just, the only way that's going to get your fat ass into the gym, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
that could make sense temporarily, but it's not actually the best investment, I don't think, compared to having an online coach.
I agree. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to talk shit on anybody, but if we're being honest, most personal trainers fucking suck.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, people talk about, get your certification, get this education, that education.
Whoop-de-fucking-do.
Whoop-de-do. Like, I mean, dude, like, you went to school for this. Like, I got
two personal training certificates.
Right, so
and, like, it doesn't mean anything.
NASM, like, I mean,
yeah,
dude,
exactly.
The investment in functional health coaching and that education was the absolute best thing I could have done for myself. And they don't teach you that in college.
Not at all.
Not at all. They don't touch on it whatsoever. So it's like, that seems like a waste of money. And now when you go to a trainer that's kind of just, he's got his NASM certification, he might have a kinesiology degree, he might have the things, but in a real world setting, that person's not going to be able to deal with whatever gut issue you might have, whatever autoimmune, whatever thing that underlying might be holding you back. So yeah, like you said, you end up spending at least $1,200 a month on essentially just a pacifier of like, I'm working out. So it's like they're able to sit there and be like, well, I don't know, I'm not getting results, but I see my trainer 3 days a week.
Right. And I think it's also because, a lot of times just humans in general aren't going to think outside the box or try to have a different thought pattern besides what was kind of, already ingrained into you based on what society has, such as you get a personal trainer if you want to go to the gym and transform your body, right? That's the common thought process. Until you learn that there's way better options, such as having an online coach, and then you're like, you kind of realize, okay, maybe that's not the best option. Yeah. And then you end up, saving money and actually reaching your goals versus just doing what you're supposed to do to maybe reach those goals, which doesn't actually happen.
Well, I think most people don't even realize that online coaching is an option per se.
Right.
I think it's, even though it's been around for a while, I think this is an industry that's still relatively new and people don't realize that they have that option, or they've been burned by like one of these just here's some macros and here's like these preset trainerized workouts, so I could see how some people might be avoidant of that, but at the end of the day, it's really a thing of, and I'm not saying people can't learn a whole bunch from if they have a good trainer, but when you're doing the online service and you're really being given essentially an education.
Yeah.
We have clients that have been with us for over 2 years that just enjoy the support, but realistically, you're learning a skill that you're able to carry on even when you're not working with a coach. Because it's weird, like when we look at people that go to jiu-jitsu or they want to like learn how to shoot, they go get an instructor, they take the classes. Fitness, for some reason, is the only fucking thing where people come in, I could figure this out myself. Why? What makes you so confident? It's still a skill.
It's funny. I had that exact same thought this morning. I wanted to make a video about it.
Yeah.
People literally think, well, like you said, I grew up playing basketball. He grew up boxing. You grew up playing sports. When you think of any sport, whether it's basketball, boxing, football, anything, running a business, whatever like skill you could think of, people have to go out and they understand that they need to either get a coach or pay somebody or figure out a route of learning that skill so then they can apply that knowledge for said thing. Whereas with the gym, for whatever reason, people think it's as simple as like, all right, I'll go get this $10 Planet Fitness membership and I'm just going to walk in and just use the machines and just move some weights around.
Right. Yeah.
And like they don't understand or they don't want to understand that there's a learning curve involved. It's something you have to get good at. So how do you get good at said thing? You learn from the person that's already good at said thing.
Absolutely.
Right? But that was also one of the biggest problems with having the gym. No matter how good of an in-person trainer you are, I'd argue that if you're an amazing in-person trainer, sometimes it's more of a disservice to the client because everything's kind of on autopilot for them.
Totally
they
agree.
Come in, right? And yes, they're doing the workout, but they don't actually have to think much. They don't have to use their brain. We're the ones setting up the equipment for them, adjusting their form. If their form's slipping up during a set, we're constantly reminding them, physically adjusting them mid-set, whatever it is. And their brain is off the whole time because the mindset they came in with is, I'm going to come in, my trainer's going to run me through this workout, and that's exactly what it is. So once they leave there, they didn't acquire any skill of any sort. So what I always said is, with the in-person training, it's almost a disservice because that person is now a slave to that trainer. If for whatever reason they can't use that trainer anymore, the trainer moves. Like we did. We moved across the country. Right. A lot of our clients came on with us for online coaching. Yeah. And they started getting better results once we left and they came on with online. But now that person's on their own, they didn't actually soak in any of that knowledge because they weren't the ones actually applying it. And now they're on their own. They can't do any of it. They don't understand how to apply it, essentially.
There's, like, to piggyback off that, there's a massive difference to where when a client's coming in and this isn't, I'm not thinking about anyone in particular, but like you'll have people that come in and
yes,
you will have, I'm thinking of multiple people, that's the thing. So it's 100%. Not anyone in particular, but you can have an exercise where, dude, like you're physically adjusting the person over and over and over again, and it's every single time, and it's the same thing. It's like, hey, and you're tweaking them, you're moving their hips, their body position, whatever. When people send videos of their training, which we expect all of our clients to do, like the same way as you, but you give them those critiques, they're forced to now I have these critiques on paper, so to speak. They have to go in the gym and they have to use their brain to apply that. Which, is it a little more effort? Yeah, it is. I understand thinking is hard, but like at the same time, they're learning something. So it's next time they go and do that, they remember like, okay, I'm not going to make the same mistake. Hopefully.
Absolutely. So do you think there's ever a place for a personal trainer where having a personal trainer actually is beneficial or more beneficial than not having one?
I'd say if you're an athlete, if you're training for an event, if you're training for a competition.
Just say your goal is to get in shape, build muscle, lose fat.
Just like a normal everyday person.
Yeah, not competition.
I mean, look, something is better than nothing.
Something's better than nothing.
I agree.
But it really depends. I think it's very person dependent. Are there people out there that could have an in-person trainer and come at it with the right mindset and learn the skill, get the result? Absolutely.
Now, the thing with that is, right, so that the answer to the question heavily depends on the client that we're talking about, because you have the client. So when we had our gym in Brooklyn, we would still do nutrition and supplements for people.
Okay.
Whether they followed that or not was up to them.
Would you do like check-ins with them as well, or how would you know if they were following
We would try to.
We would try to, but it never really... like
it's the mindset. Again, they treat it like checking off a box. Well, as long as they come in for that hour workout and check off that box, fitness is now done for them.
It becomes a thing of like, why would I do a weekly check-in if I see you 3, 4, 5 days a week?
Right, that makes sense, absolutely.
So, and even if you seem to explain the purpose of the tracking, like, hey, I can't really make changes unless I'm seeing the data that, facilitates those changes.
As a matter of fact, I'll give you a great example. We've had a pretty decent amount of clients that have come in, and I've seen this for years now, because I was even doing a little bit of online coaching before I moved out to New York to run the gym with him. And there's a lot of people that will hire an online coach for the nutrition, the accountability, and then they'll say, but I'm still going to see my trainer X amount of days a week for my workouts.
Right, that's where I was, this is where I was going.
And I still have that too.
Literally 9.9 times out of 10, they're not getting the results they should be getting, and then they end up getting rid of that trainer.
Exactly.
Going full online, we take over the training aspect, and what do you think happens?
This happens with everyone.
My biggest pet peeve actually is that type of thing, because it's like, now you're asking me to basically coordinate. Like, I've had this request, like, hey, can I show my program to like my in-person trainer? It's like, no, you can't, because now I'm coordinating with this other guy. He's not gonna.
It's also, now we're sitting there trying to explain to them, why are you spending essentially double the money? Because now you're still paying for both.
Yep.
And when we try to explain to them that maybe you shouldn't continue spending money on that, they almost will sometimes take it as like we're trying to take money out of that person's pocket.
Most people don't need a fucking team just to simply get in shape.
Listen, if that's just what you want to do, great. But if after 1, 2, 3, 4 months, however long the timeline is, you're not seeing the result that you want to see, and we can directly pinpoint that to the training, maybe you should start to understand, like, all right, this guy's on to something. Maybe I should, put this in-person training thing aside for a second, focus on this, and what's going to happen? You're probably going to learn the skill.
I just to play like devil's advocate a little bit here, like there's multiple scenarios. So it's because that's an interesting question. Like, is it better to just not like, what was it, to do it yourself and not have a personal trainer?
Yeah, or does it ever make sense to have a personal trainer? And when is that? When does that ever make sense? Yeah,
so
when it makes sense.
In my opinion, when you have somebody starting out, now this is the flip side of it. There are people that legitimately have an issue going into the gym. That legitimately, like, they get the gym intimidation. Like,
that's real.
They feel weird. That's a very real thing. So maybe somebody that's in the beginning of their journey that's just kind of like super unfamiliar with anything, a good coach is a good buffer to that, because now you don't feel weird in the gym. You have somebody that is a professional. You're with them. You
learn how to use the machines.
Right. You're more confident that you're not doing things wrong.
Right.
But that also comes down to having a good trainer, because as we all know, most trainers are fucking horrible. Like, I mean, you see them having people do things that you're like, wow.
I mean, even at like EOS, for example, they have their own certification process for their personal trainers. And then you'll just see 10 personal trainers on the floor all doing one-on-one personal training, and that client is paying EOS, however much, and then that personal trainer is getting paid minimum wage. That's probably not going to be where the best personal trainers or even good personal trainers are going to want to go to be a personal trainer.
I mean, listen, I'll tell you like this, because I've worked at gyms in my life too. I worked at a retro fitness throughout high school. What a lot of people don't understand is, a lot of times people become an in-person trainer because, one, it's extremely easy to get the certification. For retro, it was like $150 to $200 for whatever just bullshit certification they required. It was like the most of the people passing it didn't actually study. Like, it was just very common sense type things. And they get that job because they think that it's just an easy paycheck.
Absolutely.
I saw that 9 times out of 10. And they come in, and I'll put it to you like this. Like, do you necessarily need to be in shape to know how to get someone in shape? No. But I would never in a million years hire somebody to get me in shape that is not in shape. Unless maybe they're older. Maybe they've gone through injuries. Maybe they've had this track record of setbacks, but in their past, they played the part.
Or if they've been in shape before.
Right.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't hire a broke accountant. Right. I wouldn't,
You walk in the gym, and it's like, you look at majority of these trainers, and I see clients that, like, they're coming in for a trainer, but they're already in better shape than the trainer they're being given.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, like, if you're a fitness professional of any kind, online coach, personal trainer, whatever, you should look the part to an extent. Now, obviously people fall off, like, different things happen in life. You're not always going to look like a bodybuilder per se, but if you really know what you're doing, like, at my worst, I'm still in substantially better shape than the average person.
Yeah, so, but if you've always been morbidly obese and then you just become a personal trainer.
Well, I mean, even if you've been in shape before and then you're kind of like, now you're a personal trainer at an EOS or like LA Fitness or whatever, and you've got a gut and you have tits coming through your dry fit shirt. I mean, this is a problem. Like, I couldn't expect to trust that kind of person to get me in shape.
A big part of what we preach, I mean, all three of us, is no matter how hard, stressful, however life becomes, it shouldn't be difficult to stay in generally good shape. Again, you don't always have to look like a bodybuilder. You go through different phases of life. But I'll give a good example. I myself haven't trained in months, really, except for like a couple of days here and there. Why do I just went down and picked up eggs from the Instacart guy, and he's walking in and he's like, oh, I knew this had to be for a bodybuilder, this amount of eggs.
Right.
Why do I still look the part?
Yeah.
Because I'm still eating the way I should be. I'm still walking. I'm getting my steps in. I'm
put in the work.
I'm still living a healthy, fit lifestyle.
This is actually a good point. This is an important point to make, because I think people really need to understand something. Like, for the people that haven't ever been in shape, have never seen their abs, you really only have to get it done once. You really only have to do it one time because you build all the skills and the mental fortitude that it requires to actually get in that type of shape. You've been there before. It's like what they say with business, like your first 100K is the hardest. Like once you get past that, you're fine. Like even if you go broke, you know how to do it again because you've already done it. It's the same thing with getting in shape. Like once you get it done once, you see your abs, it becomes a lot simpler to maintain, but also to get back to.
Because you figured it out.
If you fall off, because you've already done it.
So it kind of brings me to a different question. If, let's say, you did set up a gym in Phoenix, Scottsdale, somewhere in Arizona, what would you do differently, whether it was mistakes you made or what you're seeing other gyms are making as mistakes, such as, FitLab, for example? There's a lot of mistakes with that gym ownership of you make it a bodybuilding gym, but don't allow bodybuilding there, basically. Right. How would you design a gym here if you had, a $1 million grant given to you only to be able to put towards making a gym?
So are we talking like a public, like big box gym, or more of what we had in New York where it's like a private training studio?
A semi-private.
I mean, you got $1 million, so it could be a crazy nice private gym, but also
$1 million doesn't take you as far, like that far, depending on the facility you want.
That's for a loan. Like you could get a bigger loan with $1 million cash.
Okay.
Like you have $1 million as a down payment,
and then take another loan against that $1 million.
Like that's a difficult question because I think it solely depends on what your actual intentions with that gym are. Because if my intentions with that gym was purely profit, I would cater to everything that I'm not.
How so?
I would do
Explain.
the Planet Fitness model.
Okay.
I would cater to, you walk into an EOS.
Mm-hmm.
What type of clientele are you seeing in that gym?
Let's talk about like what big box gyms, what the whole model of that is. It's not really to help people. Like you don't want people signing up and using their membership.
No, they expect you not to.
Did. Right. Like you want it to keep getting charged month to month to where the person doesn't pay attention to it. Because realistically, most gyms, for them to be truly profitable, if all the people that they had signed up were to actually come and use the facility, they'd be at capacity all the fucking time. It's impossible.
Right.
So it's like if you really want to make money, that's the business model you go. You market towards, Planet Fitness. You give people pizza on Fridays.
Yeah.
Keep
them fat.
Yeah, exactly. You market towards, the fat retards of the world, and you kind of just go like, all right, this is how we make our money. Now, if the goal is to actually help people, I would, and if somebody wants to do this, I'm sure there's some facilities in Arizona, like the Hive, I think, is similar to this.
There's that.
But you do the top of the line equipment. You give access to different athletic pursuits that people want to do. So not just bodybuilding. You put in that equipment. You put in like some high rock stuff, some, whatever, some athletic training type things. But then you also put the recovery facilities. I would love to do an in-house kind of like a wellness clinic where people can go and they can get TRT, they could get peptides, and they could do a GI map.
That'd be a very good one,
so where people could actually come in and optimize their health from the cell up without having to be like, okay, I've been working out and I've been, some of these gyms have like meal preps in the fridge. I've been eating the fucking meal preps.
Here's
and
the
I'm
thing,
so
though.
fat.
Here's the thing, though, right? A gym having all of those features, that costs a lot of money, right?
It costs a lot of
money.
But
the types of people that you need to pull in are people that truly do care for the right reasons.
Right, but that's the thing.
And that creates a situation where you're not going to be as profitable as you need to be.
So that will never make the money that a Planet Fitness will make.
I guess that's really how it is. Like you either have the gym you want that isn't going to be as profitable, but do you think there's a way to have a gym that you want, that you enjoy, that you believe in and stand by, that is also profitable, but maybe not to the extreme as, the most popular franchise?
It can be profitable, but I think it becomes a lot of work to where now living in the days of, there's like telehealth is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more remote type of services going on. So I think as having a home base to where like if we can host like camps for clients or like
that'd be pretty cool, yeah.
Super cool, like things like that. But is that a venture that I would want to?
No, probably not. The amount of time we have, we can put towards something else.
So.
I also think it plays into the state of the fitness world right now a lot too, because I was thinking about this also this morning too. what really got me into fitness and the thing that would really drive me from a purpose standpoint to want to open a gym and be happy having it and running it is the thing that really kept me in the gym in my early days. And it doesn't exist as much anymore. Me and my dad talk about this all the time. It's a people thing.
Shout out to Rich.
Yeah, right. Most people in the gym are in the gym for all the wrong reasons, right? Whereas when I started, it wasn't as tight-knit as it was, you know, back in my dad's day, but it still existed, right? The gym brought everyone together. Like, no matter what gender you were, what race you were, what socioeconomic standpoint, anything you come from, everyone was coming into the gym with a similar goal, and that was to get better. So everyone got along, right?
Yeah.
Again, people from all different parts of the world could come to the same gym and get along, different beliefs, different views, different political standpoints. It could be all these differences within these people, but it was such a good community. Whereas you don't really see that in many of these gyms anymore. Even the gyms that are trying to cater to that and are doing more of like the tight-knit bodybuilding type feel, whatever the case may be, it's too many people that are in the gym for, like, let's say social media.
Yeah.
Right. They're coming in the gym to, like, walk in and look good in an outfit, walk in and treat it like a social club, walk in and record a bunch of videos strictly for social media. And all that stuff's cool if the root of why you're doing that is still for the right reason, which is to better yourself. And that's what creates the camaraderie of a good gym. And that's what would give me purpose with owning a gym, having that feeling. Yeah. But I'm going to all these different gyms now, and even the ones that I love, like Muscle Factory, Fit Lab, these gyms that are sick environments, sick equipment, that feeling I had in the gym when I was a 15, 16-year-old kid is gone.
Yeah.
It's completely gone, and that sucks to say.
What would you tell to either a beginner or somebody getting back into the gym? What advice would you give them in order to help, you know, give out some sort of positive influence into the world to make gyms great again? You know, to make gyms have a better environment, a better vibe, and for it to kind of spread with that.
It's such a deep question because it goes so much deeper than the gym. It comes down to, again, like a people quality standpoint. Because, for example, we're all, you know, the same age. You got into this when you were in high school.
14, yeah.
We were in high school and we were trying to better ourselves. Yeah. We were trying to, you know, look better, feel better, whatever the case may be. So that drove us to get in the gym, right? Look, what's the trend right now for kids trying to better themselves? Looks maxing, smacking a hammer off their fucking face, rather than getting a gym. Taking steroids is the day one in the gym.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because it's like we could sit there and we could say that social media is the reason that it kind of all went that direction. But it's a good and bad thing because now it's like, now you've got people that are just getting into the gym and they're seeing things about peptides online, they're seeing things about steroids, and it's become so normalized that it's like, oh, I'm gonna get in the gym and do a cycle. Oh, I want working out for a year, I want to do a show. Whereas it used to be like that stuff used to be taboo. Like,
but again, like, why is that though? Why is the mindset immediately, what can I take? What can I do to make this like instant?
Because again, instant gratification, social media. But there's a flip side to that though, because back when I was in high school and I was bodybuilding, this was considered weird. Like, I'd be in the hallway kind of eating out of my Tupperware. I'm eating cold food. People are looking at me like kind of like, what the fuck? Nowadays, it's like, that's cool. Like, that's a very popular thing to do. So it's cool in the sense that social media has brought more awareness to kind of like the lifestyle and the discipline of doing this. I think that's very powerful. But it also just depends on who you're listening to. Like, you really have to be able to filter out the voices that you're getting online, because it's a lot of people out there that are just like, this is right, what I'm saying works, everybody else is wrong.
That's very common. The dogmatic approach of like, I know what I'm talking about because they think that, you know, like, I think Todd Lee's a perfect example of that. I'm kind of just name dropping everybody.
Whatever. Yeah.
You know, I think Todd Lee, you know, he's a doctor of, I don't know, maybe MD.
I'm actually not sure what. Yeah,
I think he's an
field
MD.
He is an MD.
But I don't know what kind of MD.
Yeah.
Either way, you know, that absolutely has stroked his ego to the max. Even though his physique doesn't really show for it because he gets last place in every bodybuilding show he does. But anyways,
no, I mean, you're right though.
Yeah,
you're right.
And he did get his pro card, but
I mean, we can.
But either way, the way that he's just an example of somebody who posts content saying, this is the only way to do it. Anybody that disagrees with me is completely wrong with those all or nothing approaches. That's what does well on social media, because then you get people that completely agree with you and people that completely disagree with you. And then that kind of sets you apart, and great for him, great for anybody who does the all or nothing things. But that's not how reality is, and how, bodybuilding is. It's always nuanced. It's always, it depends.
It's just, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think like a lot of, just using like Todd as an example, when it's someone that's a doctor, it's almost like that status makes you go like, all right, what I'm doing is right. But the reality is, like you mentioned, like you're working with different people. There's tons of nuance. Like sometimes the thing that should have been like textbook, this works, doesn't work. So what do you do then? Like, I think I've seen him make a video, again, not to like make this about Todd Lee, but like, I think I've seen him make a video about like, there's no point in like checking your cholesterol. Is that,
maybe
I might be wrong.
Maybe about like HDL or something, but
I think he said something like that. There's no point to like
only look at ApoB, and it's like more data the better.
That's like why? Well, first of all, where do they just pull ApoB without?
Well, it's
HDL
so ApoB is like
LDL?
it's all correlation. Like nothing is going to tell you exactly you're going to have a heart attack just on your blood work, but it's the most accurate marker for risk of cardiovascular disease.
Sure.
But it's not the only cause and effect, factor. No. HDL, absolutely. If you have, HDLs in the single digits versus if it's, 70, is that zero effect on your cardiovascular risk? I'd say I'd disagree. But even with, like things that he said about Masteron, Masteron is the best steroid. Everybody should be taking Masteron. Everybody should be taking growth hormone. You shouldn't be taking any, whatever he says, DECA or whatever he says. He says Primo is the worst steroid. All of these like completely polarizing claims, it makes sense that those videos do well, because to somebody who doesn't know enough, they're going to say the amount of confidence this guy has, I'm going to listen to him. But in reality, I have guys that take Masteron, I have guys that take Primo, I have guys that take DECA, like every different compound, because they respond differently to different compounds depending on the person. And I might have a guy who takes Masteron and his estrogen shoots through the roof because he needs to take either an AI or EQ or Primo. And, somebody else might take, just a little bit of EQ and their estradiol's in the single digits. Right. Yeah. So, I think to say like everybody should be taking also growth hormone. Yeah. Okay. What if you have a huge genetic risk for cancer?
Just thinking
what if you had cancer and, like multiple cases of it and you want to become a bodybuilder?
Well, he makes the argument of like, and I mean, he's not the only one. I see many people make the argument of like GH doesn't directly cause cancer. Sure, like the mechanism might not be like, all right, you take GH, right, and you get cancer. Like, no, but if there's something underlying, like you said, without a doubt, you're at risk. Is that worth it? I don't think so.
Right. I think he says, you're stupid to not be taking growth hormone without, or without not taking growth hormone with TRT.
Right.
I think it depends on the person.
Test and GH, I don't see any.
You guys are mad funny.
Why?
Just because, when you have too much knowledge, you just kind of blow past like baseline questions. Mm-hmm. We're stemming into this off a question of advice for people that
just get into the
gym for the right reasons.
GH.
For me, it's like, it's one of those things like all of these things that we're now talking about should not even be a thought for your first few years in the gym.
I mean, like bottom line, like somebody that's getting into the gym, right?
We have people that are consuming the types of content that you guys are talking about their first week in the gym,
right?
And now they think, oh, growth hormone, is it right for me? All these different drugs, peptides, whatever. Yo, you just started. This is your first month in the gym.
Biggest issue I see commonly and too commonly is something like that, or I want to start a cut, even with somebody who's not a beginner. Let's say I want to start a cut. Okay, what peptide do I take? Okay, what steroid do I take? What fat burner do I take? Let's clean up the diet. Let's try going on a walk every day. Let's try doing some cardio.
Here's the fucking thing. I mean, dude.
How much Retatrutide do I take?
I mean, so many people coming in asking about Reta and like,
I'm going to start a cut. Let's start with Retatrutide.
But it's just like, look, man, like if I ask you what your fucking macros are and you can't tell me, you don't need to be thinking about peptides.
Here's the problem.
What your diet is.
Tell me, like what it is you eat, how you train, what's your training split.
But you take 10 milligrams of Retatrutide per day or per week.
I talk to people that work with coaches, bro, that I'll ask, like, so how much of Reta, Motzi, whatever their stack they're taking, how much of it are you using? I draw it up to 10 units. They don't know the dose, dude. They don't know
That's
what
very
it is
common.
they're taking. It's extremely common, but it's just, I mean, like, how could you not care? Like, you're literally injecting. I understand the whole thing, trusting your coach. Like, that's, people are way too trusting of their coach, in my opinion. Like, when I put together a protocol for somebody, and like you do the same thing, like I explain to them, this is why we're using X, Y, and Z. And it might not always register because they might not give a shit.
Right.
But I'm going to make sure I do my due diligence and make that person aware at least a little bit of what they're putting in their body, so that the other aspect of it, when they're giving you feedback, well, it's like, if they don't understand what's doing what, how could they give you accurate feedback?
And they don't know what to look for necessarily.
Right. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to look for.
The real problem, my philosophy at the end of the day is, and it pisses me off, I'm sick and tired of it, everybody getting into this fitness thing thinking that it's supposed to be easy, that they need to grab this shortcut, whatever it is, whether it's the peptide, the steroid, whatever the case may be, because they want this to happen overnight. Like, it's not supposed to be hard and take time and take work. So my philosophy is, when you have these people come in, it's establishing that baseline before anything else. But the problem is you have these coaches or these mentors, trainers, whatever you want to call them, they don't get that through people's heads when they start. They don't flip that switch in their head of, just so you know, this is going to be difficult, whether you're on a steroid, whether you're on a peptide. You're not just going to take this drug and it's just going to work and get you in shape. These baselines need to be established. The training needs to be not perfected, but you need to learn the skill. The nutrition, you need to learn how to eat properly. You need to learn how to do these things so these compounds can actually work, right? And now we're in this situation where these people are taking all these different things, it's not working, and now they're sitting here looking at guys like us, and it's like, they might have that mindset of, oh, he's got to be taking 50 of these different things because it's not working for me. So for me, at the end of the day, it simply comes down to nothing worth having is easy, right? You want to become a millionaire. Is there some pill that you can go take or some fucking injection you can take that's going to make you a millionaire? Like Ozempic, you take some Ozempic, drop all this weight. It's just not how it works, right? And that goes for anything. If I want to go to the fucking NBA, am I going to take fucking some Ozempic or some testosterone and end up as LeBron James? Absolutely not. Yeah. So it comes down to that. It's understanding that, look, if you want to be in good shape, if you want to be in the 1%, because the reality is in America, it's the 1%. And it's the 1% because it's hard. If you want to be in the 1%, you need to embrace that this is going to be hard and you need to earn it, right?
It's simple. It's just not easy. That's the whole thing.
100%. But I wouldn't even want it if it was easy. That's always been my thing. These people want it.
Nobody would, though. That's the thing. Like, nobody would care about having abs or being in shape or any of these things if it was easily attainable. Because then it's like, I'd fucking
but that's
Fred
my
up
whole
the street
point, though.
has, you know, is ripped and he doesn't really do shit.
People still expect it to happen like that. And this is something that I get frustrated. Like, I'm very passionate about this because, again, like, you know, I was telling you the other day, like, I've been getting back into my faith, right? Like, I've been getting back, like, you know, God is now present in my life. And it's like, you start reading the Bible or the Quran or you know, you're Jewish, the Torah, whatever it is you're reading and studying, it's all pretty similar in the sense of, like, the lessons that you're going to learn are that you need to work very hard, you need to be determined, you need to be committed, you need to have courage, all these different things. And that's going to get you all sorts of different good things in your life.
By the way, every single religious text that you could possibly read, they all say to take care of your body. So it's like, if you're a person of faith and you're fat and fucking sloppy, you're not a person of faith. Like, that's just the reality of it.
100%.
But to really, like, the bottom line of, like, I kind of want to still, like, put that into a perspective of, like, if you're a beginner, if you're just getting back into the gym, the reality of the situation is, if you take most people, right, and you give them their dream body, they would fucking lose it within a month. Mm-hmm. Like, they would ruin it within a month because they haven't built any of the skills. So it's like, the first thing is, obviously, I mean, it's cliche, everybody says it, just diet, learn how to train, and do that consistently. Learn how to do that over a period of time.
I'm glad you brought this thought up, though, because I was thinking about this the other day, too, because we're on the verge of it with all these different drugs and peptides. And they all have their place. They're great for, you know, specific reasons. Mm-hmm. But imagine we beamed tomorrow into, like, that dystopian world where you can take this injection or this pill and boom, you have your dream body, right? And now
Where
everyone
myostatin inhibitors, the whole thing.
Not gonna mean anything.
Right,
Yeah.
but now everyone's walking around ripped, six-pack, shredded, whatever the case may be. No one's gonna give a fuck anymore.
That's the same thing with Instagram check marks. Remember how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
had to have an
that's
Instagram
right.
check mark?
Exactly, that's a
and
good
then-
example.
Buy it. Yeah.
And exactly, like you see one, it's like, who gives a fuck? You spend $15 a month,
Yep.
and you have 500 followers.
Yep.
Okay, you look like a chump now.
That used to be a thing of like, yo, you were verified. It's like, oh, he's verified, or it's like a dude.
That's somebody.
Yo, it could be that celebrity like status thing, right? Like the way most people operate, to where they idolize things for no reason. Like they didn't even have to know who the person was. They could have no idea who it was, but if there was that blue check mark, it's like, oh, look who commented or liked my thing.
Exactly.
Now, dude, I have 50 accounts with 50 followers and a blue check mark liking my shit, and like you don't give a fuck,
Right.
because it lost all its value.
Exactly. I think for the person that is, let's say, either the beginner or getting back into the gym, the biggest thing that I see is they realize, oh shit, this pool party's coming up, or I want to look good for social media and start making money, or whatever it is, and they think they need it now, and they see everybody else around me is shredded, or people on social media are jacked, tan, and shredded, and so they need to make this transformation right now. They got to get on top of it right now. So they say, okay, but it's got to be an extreme measure I got to take for this extreme result. So the first thing that they do is, what do I take to reach that goal? It's not, okay, well, let's get the most out of the least and start doing the basics consistently of have a consistent diet, stop eating the cheat meals, and don't also starve yourself completely, and do the basics with the diet, cardio, and training. They might be training already, sure, but with diet and cardio, they're not even going to push the cardio or the diet in the proper way.
I made a good example to a client a couple weeks ago, and it was like figuring out or trying to uncover like a why that actually has real value, right? And I'll use a good example. Like, let's say you want to be like a multi-millionaire, and your reasonings for wanting that is like because you want to have all these cars and you want to have this material thing and whatever. The chances of you actually getting to that status is a lot lower than it would be if you had a real why. Whereas if your why was like, let's say you're taking care of X amount of people in your family, you're covering the bills for X amount of people, you're the one there if anyone needs medical coverage, someone gets a sickness, you can fly them here or there to get the best, treatment, whatever the case may be. When it comes to fitness, if you can establish a why that actually holds real weight rather than I want to look good for this pool party in 3 months.
Right. I just want to get just a little bit leaner. I just want to build a muscle.
Yo, for example, like let's say someone is a father, right? 30s, 40s. If they can understand and establish a why of I want to be healthy and be around for my kid for as long as possible. I want to be, 40, 50, 60 years old and in good enough shape to where I can still run around, play football, get on my knees to play with my son, my daughter, whatever. That's going to be a lot more of a driver than trying to get ready for this pool party. But a lot of people won't look at it like that. People are very surface level with their reasonings, and that's a big part of why it's such a struggle for people. Because if you switch that flip, or flip that switch, whatever you want to call it.
You got it.
I'm cooking. But it's like, if your reasonings become something of real value, you know how much more likely you are to get out of bed in the morning and go for a walk, right?
Absolutely. And then also even realizing, kind of building on what you just said, is if your issue is, oh, when I'm stressed, I cheated my diet, or I just, stop by Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, or I get Chipotle, Taco Bell, whatever it is, when I'm busy, when I'm tired, whatever it is. If you realize that eating fast food, shitty food, missing out on the things that you should be doing, if you realize that those are the things that are going to decrease your quality and quantity of life and cause an earlier death, potentially cause, disease earlier.
Sure. You know what?
Is that fair to your family?
No. But you know what, dude? It doesn't even have to be that extreme. We're talking death, health, whatever. I'll give you another great example. Obviously, I'm 25 years old. I'm not a father. I don't have kids, right? So you could have the men out there that'll be like, how can you relate? You can't speak on my experience, whatever the case may be, right? I have a father, right? So me and my mom, for example, we don't have the greatest relationship. Me and my dad have always been tight-knit best friends. When I was growing up, my dad's been a bodybuilder his whole life. He started when he was a teenager as well. He's always looked incredible, in the 1% of the population, right? My whole experience throughout school, elementary school, middle school, high school, all my friends, they looked up to my father more than they looked up to their own father, right? Field trips, who did they want as their chaperone? Him. Who did they want to be around? The group always wanted to be around my dad. And it was because, as a kid, you're supposed to look at your father, for example, as like, let's say a superhero. Like, how often as a kid did you have conversations or like thoughts of like, my dad could beat up his dad? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But if the reality is that like, you know, actually as a kid or even as an adult, you know that's actually true because it is. That's what these fathers don't understand. Like, how much likely is your son to respect you as a man if he actually has the reasons to, right? And I even think about this from these other kids' perspectives. Like, did their fathers even know that their children respect another man more than they respect him?
Well, also think about how is that father going to carry himself if his son or daughter is looking at them carry themselves in a poor way where, you know, they give into those instantaneous pleasures, they, you know, don't take care of themselves.
Dude,
how is that going to affect
that keeps the cycle going. That's why
exactly.
you have adults of like, you know, you hear this from fucking grown adults all the time. Well, we were never taught to eat healthy at home. We were never taught that exercise was never part of our life. I mean, dude, fat runs in our genes, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But for example, why did I establish these good habits and this healthy lifestyle at such a young age, and why will it never leave my life? Because that was hammered down on me as a kid, not because it was forced on me, but because I was shown the right examples from the person who mattered most.
The thing about that though,
not to cut you off though, but these fathers, they have children and they don't understand that if they're not thinking about themselves, they're also not thinking about their children. Because they're molding that kid by their decisions.
Psychologically.
But
100%.
To even piggyback off of that, I mean, like that's a factor. But, you know, then when you're an adult and you sit there and you use these excuses of like, my family, we were never taught to eat healthy, whatever. Listen, you're fucking 35 years old. You're telling me you don't know how to cook?
At some point, you don't
know how to fucking cook? You got a problem getting some steps in every day? You can't go for a walk? Like that now that's on you. Now that's like, all right, like when you're a kid, fine. Like you're not in control of what goes in your fridge. You're not, this is where you live, what you do. But it's like as an adult, if you're not addressing these things, that's on you. That's not your parents' fault. That's not your genetics fault. That's not any of that. But even what I wanted to say was like, even going back to what you mentioned about social media, like people see, you know, you're jacked, you're tan, like, well, what do I take to get that? The reality is, I mean, like what they say, comparison's the thief of joy. The reality is most of these influencers do not look like that in person. We know that. Like we see these people at shows, we see them in gyms. Like a lot of these people don't look like that. But it's also the reality of it is you don't need to be that to be in shape and just to live the best possible life you can. Because at the end of the day, if you're able to run around, if you're able to do a hike, if you're able to just simply move and not fall apart, you're already doing better than 90% of America at least.
I think another issue is they want the end result.
Right.
What they should be aiming for is progress, because I think what's actually going to feel good short-term and long-term is making progress. So if they're trying to, you know, they want to lose a little bit of the belly, get a little more defined, you know, lose 1 pound per week. Don't go from, okay, well, within 2 weeks, I need to look like this. Okay, now it's just crash diet. You're not going to look good. You're not going to feel good. But if you can start making progress, it feels good. Seeing the scale go up or down, and also looking in the mirror, getting the compliments from people around you. Yeah. It's progress that you should be shooting for, not the final result, because the final result, you're never going to actually be like, okay, I did it. It's always, okay, what's next?
Well, that's also...
But I wanna actually touch on that, because that's a great point. You know what's interesting about that? The person that's out of shape right now, that's like thinking about getting into the gym, might be watching this, whatever, they're going to get more satisfaction, dopamine, enjoyment out of literally just like going from 30% body fat to 18% body fat. And they're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of that than, like, for example, if I were to diet down into contest shape, because I've done it already. Like, I know what it is. So people really sleep on the mental aspect of like just getting the ball rolling.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
But this is also where, you know, the people like us, you know, the roles that we have as these coaches, this is where we actually have to step in and provide real value compared to the guys that'll just take the dollar amount and throw them on a drug.
This is
Well, so it's very simple, because being in this for as long as we have, we can understand the psychological aspects of fitness as well. As let's take the kid that didn't have the childhood that I had, that was already overweight or out of shape by the time he was of an age to make his own decisions, right? He's already climbing an uphill battle. These things weren't established for him by his parents, right? Maybe he also didn't play any sports growing up. He never had maybe a strong coach figure. So you get someone like that, let's say, in as a client, it's understanding that, hey, maybe for this guy going on a walk and cooking these types of meals, maybe it's not actually hard for him. Maybe it's just something he's never actually been exposed to. And we need to be the ones that have those hard conversations with him and tell him, yo, this is not going to be easy. These are the things, these are the prerequisites, the things that you need to do and establish in your life. And if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. Rather than lying to this guy and telling him, oh, here's this shortcut and this shortcut.
Absolutely.
And that one, here's some Retatrutide. That's where we drop the ball as the coach.
Well, it's also just, man, it's a matter of like who you work with, because it's like, like obviously these days, like we're in this industry, there's a lot of like niching down. Like there's a lot of like, I help people with X, Y, and Z. I help Christian men get fucking ripped. Like
I help lesbians lose 10 pounds.
Right, yeah, like
I've seen that one.
Right, exactly.
I help Mormons.
Yeah, I help Mormons. I help transgenders.
I help software engineers.
Right. So whatever. So there's a lot of niching down. So, but going into the functional health field, like
not to cut you. You just said the one that I help software engineers. Yo, if you are a software engineer, cool. If you want to help only software engineers because you know exactly what they do, great. But 9 times out of 10, the dude saying that is not even a fucking software engineer.
I know what you're talking about.
Right, but 100%. But here's the thing about that though. It's like for us, like we'll work with whoever. Like, dude, I don't care where you come from, what your deal is. Like, I'll really help whoever. But with that being said, because obviously past couple of years we've both gone into the functional health field of like gut issues, autoimmune, things like that. So I am more hesitant to take on people that are beginners.
Yeah, me too.
The reality is, I mean, the skill set that we have is not for them, because their situation is very simple. They just have to be consistent. Like there's nothing complicated about that. But when you have somebody come in that already is doing the right things, like they already do like they come to you, here's my diet, here's the supplements that I'm taking, here's my, HRT, TRT protocol, these are the peptides I've tried. They're talking about optimization. They're already willing to do kind of the things that you're telling them to do. Or when someone's coming in with a condition, with like a chronic condition, like they've been told they have fucking IBS,
well, this is
fake.
the perfect thing to transition. You're diving into the deeper things now, because now this is what's going to lead us into the gut health and the hormones.
Because I don't want to sit here and like overcomplicate shit about beginners, because it's not fucking complicated. It's like get your steps in, do a little bit of cardio, lift some weights, eat consistently. Start treating your weekends like a weekday, to where you're not fucking just completely falling off the wagon when Saturday, Sunday comes around.
Well, it's
also really that simple.
This is also the route where like maybe you have somebody that wasn't in shape for X amount of time, had all these different, things throughout their life, and they start doing all those right things, but their body's already fucked up.
So
they're already fucked up internally, wondering why it's not working.
I want to get into that part, but it's also just like the motivation is also completely different.
I was about to say,
when you have someone come in and they've been struggling with something for years,
they're doing it. Yeah.
The last thing on their mind, like the getting in shape and looking good part of it, is like a byproduct. Like they just want to feel normal.
Absolutely.
Right? And they're willing to do whatever they got to do.
Sometimes they are in decent shape,
but
they're dealing with some deeper.
A lot of times.
But I think for those guys who, let's say, they've been trying for 10 years with whether it's getting in shape, whether it's fixing whatever it is, trying to build muscle, and they haven't been able to simply, or even being able to, like not just eat like shit on the weekends, and they've just not been able to figure out that actual consistency. They know they got to go on the steps or on the walks. And they know they got to do these things. Simply having a plan written for you and committing to a coach, it's not going to be rocket science, but it's just simply the act of like, here's a plan that I can follow. I don't have to think about it. I can just be told what to do. And it can be literally that simple for why a beginner or somebody who's been, trying to make progress for so long, and it's not like a complicated, thing they have to deal with. That's also a reason to hire a coach.
Well, I would argue that if you're working with a coach, like the more complicated the actual plan is, the less they know what they're talking about. I'll give you an example that happened to me recently. So I'm not going to say the coach's name, and I'm not going to say the client's name. If she watches this, she knows that I'm talking about her. But she was working with a functional health coach. She has a bunch of gut issues. She has like Klebsiella, overgrowth, thyroid, hormone, like a bunch of stuff. All of that stuff is a downstream effect of her gut issues, which she got the GI map, she got everything. Now, mind you, the coach she was working with before never read the GI map, never really gave her any feedback on her blood work. Yet the protocol that he gave her was like, dude, imagine trying to tackle like every single piece. So you go like gut health, hormones, mitochondria. Imagine you try to do all that in one protocol, but you can't because it's a step by step. Your body our bodies can only handle so much. Our bodies love consistency and homeostasis. So it's like, if you start like, okay, we're fixing everything, it's going to push back. And obviously she felt like shit. Nothing got fixed. She came to me and now we're figuring it out. But yeah, I would argue the more complicated it is, the less your coach actually knows. And if the person you're working with can't very specifically break down the purpose of each and everything they're having you do, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like they're just throwing shit at the wall, hoping something
Also,
sticks.
if you hire a functional, quote unquote, functional health coach, and you pay X amount of money for it, majority of the time it's not cheap at all because
It's not
you're
cheap.
supposed to, and rightfully so, because you're supposed to be fixing problems that doctors haven't been fixing for you for a very long time.
I mean, you can.
But what functional health coach that you paid this money for, you don't find it as a red flag that they didn't even bother to even attempt to read or use your GI map as a way to like fix your problems?
That was interesting to me. And then
maybe this guy's just calling himself a functional health coach.
This other guy. I mean, I'll name drop this because he's not going to care. Vince Little.
Vince Little, yeah.
So he had candida, which we ended up fixing for him.
His tongue was white.
Yeah, like I have a before and after of his tongue to where it's like coated white and then it became pink. Whatever. Got rid of the candida.
A picture right here.
But just throw that in. but he went to a functional health person, like a functional health doctor. And when he came to us, I looked at the protocol that they gave him, and it was literally
horrible.
It was, I don't remember what probiotic it was, but it was like 2 antimicrobials. One of them was like oregano oil, and then they gave him a binder. And that was the protocol.
That's it.
That's it. So it's like, I looked at that and I was like, this is a fucking doctor.
That costs a lot of money.
Well, my point being, like, I mean, you know, like, dude, between the GI map, between the actual specialist, it costs money, and that's what they sent him back with, and he did it, and it didn't do shit because for obvious fucking reasons. So it's like, yeah, you see a lot of that in this industry to where, you know, people call themselves functional health, whatever, but that's not the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a bunch of these questions about this exact topic. You know, functional health, the gut.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. I'm ready. I think
we covered all the feel-good stuff. Now we got to dive into the...
Well, I guess a good question about, you know, I guess the gut is, how do you know if you have gut issues? Or, like, what are signs that your gut needs fixing?
I mean, numero uno, you got a question right here, but, yo, if you're not shitting every day...
That's number one.
Number one.
Actually, one of the questions that I got was, how do I check the podcast out, and can you call people fat fucks plus retards who claim call people fat fucks
you
plus...
You got it.
This is just the way it's written. Plus retards who claim IBS. So I guess the people that are retarded for saying that they have IBS. The people that think they have IBS aren't retarded. It's the doctor that told them that they have IBS.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily their fault.
You know, imaginary bowel syndrome. That's what we got to switch it to.
I mean, it's like, so the question was, how do you know you have gut issues?
How do you know if you have gut issues? You know, what are some signs? You know, where you start?
I want to give a good example because I brought up if you're not shitting every day.
Absolutely.
Justin Mahaley posted a video the other day. I was telling you about this. That was fire. So simple, but like for the person that has no education on any of this stuff, it's great. Imagine I had a trash can sitting on the table right now, right? And I'm just putting trash in it all day for days. And now it's full. And I just keep dumping trash in it, just over and over. And now it's overflowing.
Yeah.
And then another day, now it's all over the fucking table. It's all over the floor. Now there's trash everywhere. If you're not shitting every day, that's literally what's going on inside of your body.
Or if you're shitting profusely.
Yeah.
If you're shitting profusely every day.
Two sides of the same coin, you know?
But at the end of the day, I mean, look, especially in America, I would say, I mean, this is like a big figure, but 90% of people have some sort of gut issue. They've got something going on, because most of the time when I'm doing a consult and I ask the person, how's your gut health?
They say, it's fine, it's okay.
It's kind of like, it's all right, you know?
They have no idea.
It's never like, it's great.
Exactly.
Like, it's very rarely, because if it's great, you're just going to be like, oh, it's great. But most people are kind of like, that's
like, if
good.
you know it's great, like, you've done work, you know what you're looking for.
I had a guy recently, right? Started tracking his body temps. Yo, this dude was eating. He was down to 1,100, 1,200 calories, not losing weight. Yep. Nothing was happening. Starts tracking his body temperatures.
So what happens when you hire cookie cutter coaches.
In the 95s, the 96s. 96s if he was lucky, right? You're asking him about his gut. Nothing wrong with my gut. Perfectly fine. It's like, yo, that can't be true. Where did these issues that you're having, like, where do they very likely to have stemmed from, right? And to make a long story short, it all came back to, after uncovering certain things, what did he have? He had SIBO.
Yeah.
So he most certainly did have a gut issue, and it's not his fault. He had no idea.
That's the thing. Like, you can have gut issues and they might not be super debilitating, but at the end of the day, I mean, everything starts from the gut. So
we also don't teach people that if they're not shitting at least like 1 to 3 good healthy shits a day, most people don't know that if that's not happening, that's a problem.
Well, we know how Western medicine works. I mean, most people that are watching this probably already know the deal, but it's like, all right, you get heartburn, here's PPI, antacid.
Yeah, some Tums.
You have like some kind of issue, here's some antibiotics, which a lot of people don't know. Depending on most of these opportunistic bacteria, when they form biofilm around themselves, antibiotics aren't touching that.
Right.
So all you're doing is just further wrecking your microbiome and kind of making it worse long term.
Even with the antacids and the Tums, we're talking something like heartburn. 9 times out of 10, why are they having acid reflux? Why do they have heartburn?
Before we even talk
acid,
about right, but it's like
it's low stomach acid. Yeah, it's not high stomach acid.
Before even getting into that, like, I think a lot of people don't understand how important gut health actually is, because our gut is literally the direct line of communication with the outside world. So, I mean, 80% of our immune system lives in the gut. Thyroid hormone.
A lot of people serotonin is produced.
A lot of people dealing with chronic anxiety, chronic depression.
So it's actually
a lot of times a gut issue.
It's interesting you brought that up, because like I'll see a lot of people like bring it up online of like, oh, all the serotonin made in your gut. The reality, like, serotonin in your gut does not affect anything in your brain. Like, they don't interact. That's not a thing. So,
well, doesn't it affect, like, you produce serotonin in your gut, in your small intestine, and then it goes around your body?
This is what happens, right? So, like, it doesn't necessarily affect the serotonin in your brain, but our gut, there's a gut-brain axis. So your gut's always communicating with your brain. So because of that overwhelming amount of serotonin in your gut, your immune system is going to fire off like there's a threat going on. That's going to directly go to your brain. So that's where we see symptoms like depression, low motivation, brain fog. And a lot of times they stem from gut issues. And people don't connect those two things. Like, they go to see a psychiatrist, they get an SSRI, they get, they go that route. They start treating the brain before looking at what could the underlying.
You're not going to go to a psychiatrist and they're going to say, "Tell me about your digestion." And
I mean, a perfect
get
example.
bloated,
but they're not educated on it.
Well,
most doctors aren't.
Right.
To be fair,
a friend of ours actually, Fiato.
Yeah.
This is years back already.
Right.
But
okay. Yeah.
I remember
tell
this is before functional health was even like a thought. Like, there were no functional health coaches. There were no like fitness coaches focusing on gut health. None of that. Like, we didn't know any of these things yet, right? And close friend of ours, however many years back, was dealing with like chronic, really, really bad anxiety to the point where it was
debilitating. It was bad.
Every single day of his life, he couldn't leave his house. Like, just panic attacks nonstop, and for no reason, essentially. And he's seeing therapists, he's seeing doctors. They're putting him on all these different meds, SSRIs, whatever the case may be, and nothing was ever changing. And then he ends up seeing some sort of gut expert at the time. Thank God they were actually good, which is obviously rare.
Yeah.
But ended up uncovering that I don't remember exactly what it was. I'd have to talk to him again. But he had some crazy gut issue going on. Got that cleaned up. The kid's, I don't know his personal life, but he's very successful now. You know what I mean? So
I mean, that's a perfect example of somebody who doesn't realize they have gut issues. How come it's important? I'm just gonna say, like, what's the question is, why is it important if a guy wants to just get in shape? They want to build muscle. They want to lose body fat. Why should they care about their gut microbiome or their gut health? If they get bloated from certain foods, who cares? It's just getting bloated. You know, why does this matter for fitness, getting in shape, building muscle?
I mean, let's talk about like, let's go from step one. Like, you have an individual that's out of shape. Like, they're probably fat. They've been eating like shit. They have no diet, whatever the case is, right? Then they start eating clean, and the immediate thing that happens for a lot of people, they start getting constipated, they get bloated. Their gut can't handle that clean food because of the amount of protein, whatever the case may be. They might have some fermentation, fiber, they can't handle it. Now, what happens when you spend years eating like a fat fuck, you're gonna develop some kind of gut issues. It's gonna happen regardless.
Absolutely.
You're gonna create inflammation, and as that happens, I mean, assume for somebody it didn't turn into SIBO yet. Whatever, you're still having a bunch of inflammation, probably low stomach acid. A lot of people have that issue.
Yeah.
So even without, like, we can dive deeper, but even without going too deep, you're not going to have great nutrient absorption. You're probably, so now this is where the whole calories in, calories out shit falls apart, because it's like, if we start to look at the human body like it's a plus minus equation, I wish it was that fucking easy. But realistically, when these nutrients and macros and all these different foods get into our body, there's chemical processes that happen when our body breaks it down and puts it to use. If there's a break in any of those processes, you're not really going to get what you're looking for out of it. So it's like where you see people eat a meal and their body temperature goes down, right? Like there's no thermogenesis that's happening. What is that? Calories in, calories out says it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that's, if we're talking about where it applies at a baseline level, that's it right there.
This is the example I just gave of a guy that is trying to lose weight and his body wasn't responding to the point where he's down to eating less than a woman, 1,200 calories a day, not losing weight.
Right, but
why is that?
Like
well, calories in, calories out says he should be dropping crazy weight on a weekly basis.
Now, like where you mentioned bloating is bloating, I ate some shit, whatever, constipation.
How does it affect, building muscle or losing body fat, right?
Oh, I'm constipated, whatever. I take a little bit, like I take like some laxative and I'm good to go, right? So the problem with that is, okay, like you're constipated, you can't shit, or you're shitting entirely too much. That's where that thing happens of like you switch to clean food and you start having problems because you probably have fermentation going on already. Now you're putting in foods that are more difficult for your stomach to work through. Fermentation gets worse. Now that does something that might have been just, like a dysbiotic gut, whatever. Like it turns into SIBO for real.
Exactly.
And now you've got a much bigger problem. And that's a lot of times that's where people give up because they're like, oh, I tried eating clean, felt like shit, didn't work, didn't lose weight, felt worse. And they kind of think they're just fucked. When they go to the doctor doesn't really have an answer for them. Because the thing about even GI maps, like, dude, GI maps by Western medicine are looked at as like woo-woo
exactly,
shit.
Yeah, they're woo-woo,
Which is crazy.
Which is fucking insane.
That's insane.
Apparently, like, the accuracy of it and whatever, but they're accurate enough,
Yeah, I mean, what else can you, do to actually see each bacteria strain and how much it's overgrown?
They're also talking about accuracy as if they were like looking at the gut at all to begin with in the first place.
They can do a SIBO breath test, but like that's not testing the stool sample.
Yeah, that's not giving you much,
Right.
So
I think with like bloating specifically, I think a big reason why that's important is it's also a sign. It's not just like it's the issue. It's a sign. Okay, well if you ate some vegetables and now you're just extremely bloated with like a gas type of bloating, it's not something to just ignore. It could tell you, okay, maybe you do have an overgrowth of bacteria. Or if, let's say, if it's related to constipation, maybe if you don't realize that you have low stomach acid from chronic dieting or stress or an overgrowth of H. pylori, anything that's causing a decrease in stomach acid, now you, let's say, okay, I want to get more serious about bodybuilding. Now you're increasing your protein intake and you're increasing how much, meat you're eating. Now, if you don't have enough stomach acid to break down the protein, then you're gonna have undigested food basically going through your
you're most likely, to be honest,
not absorbing it,
which is gonna ferment.
If you have low stomach, low stomach acid, a lot of these issues also go hand in hand with you don't even have enough enzymes to break down the protein. Like
you don't have enough enzymes, you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not able to actually absorb the nutrients, and that's the calories in, calories out that you're talking about. Is like you poop it out. That's the calories in and the calories
going
out.
Through you. Yeah, it's going through. Might be going through you, but you're not really doing much with it. So, that's where the thing with gut issues, a lot of times it's not just one thing. Like it could be like if you have low stomach acid, maybe if you're in the beginning stages of it and you nip it in the butt like immediately, which most people don't know, like most people lower their stomach acid even more.
Yeah, when they get some heartburn, okay, well I'm gonna decrease my stomach acid.
Right. So
swallowing Tums for 10 years.
Right,
You
which
know what
makes
I'm
it
saying?
worse. So now you're digging yourself in a deeper hole. But like, assume you do nip that in the butt off, like just off rip. Fantastic, good for you. Most people don't, and that turns into a cascade of other issues. And again, like we were talking about, it starts in the gut, but that all leads down to, like, we look at Hashimoto's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thyroid dysfunction. There's studies, which I mean, we could pull it up here, put an overlay of it, but there's one specific study that shows that 80% of people with Hashimoto's, it's driven by gut health, because thyroid conversion happens in the gut. So why is no one addressing that? Why are we still doing T4 monotherapy for these people? Why are we not? I mean, that's a whole nother issue in itself, but why are we not looking at gut health for them?
Right, and then also if we're looking at, the adrenals, if we're looking at bile flow from the liver, cortisol levels, I think that all plays a huge role into thyroid production.
Absolutely.
So that also brings me to, you go ahead.
Just to add to it, like these are the same people that are questioning the effectiveness or accuracy of a GI map, right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Because at the end of the day, if this same industry, medical industry, did look at the gut and were equipped to fixing it, now all of these issues like the Hashimoto's, the other thyroid issues, the adrenal issues, whatever it is, then now it can actually be fixed, which that's a whole nother conversation, because now people are actually getting cured rather than just being put on some medication, levothyroxine, some sort of thyroid medication for their entire life, basically.
Well, it's a lot of times, like what I see, it'll be NP. Like it'll be NP that people get prescribed.
I see a lot of people get put on Levo as well.
Well, NP is literally like, it's mostly T4 with like a little bit of T3, which is retarded, by the way.
It's all
if you have a conversion issue and deiodinase issue.
So it's just like the whole thing is absolutely
your body,
retarded.
like your gut's fucked, your liver's fucked.
But
you're not converting properly. So let's give you more T4 that's inactive, that's also just not going to convert.
Well,
the whole sequence makes no sense.
The whole argument is that like you're gonna force the body to convert all that T4, which is
not unless you start fixing.
But it's like, even, I mean, we all know this, but I'm gonna say it for the people at home watching this. Like, when you go to your doctor and you get blood work and you're quote unquote in range, these reference ranges are not established to give you an optimal number of like, this is where you are at your best.
Careful, you're gonna ruffle some feathers.
Fuck it. I mean, this is the reality of the situation.
People hate to hear this one.
Yeah, this is fine. These values were established to identify sick people. They weren't established to be like, let's get you as healthy as you possibly can be.
The highest functioning.
Not what's optimal.
Right. They're there to identify who's sick. So it's like you might be at the bottom end of a reference range, and the doctor will send you home and be like, you're all right. But
you're in the reference range.
You're fine.
300 nanograms per deciliter, you're fine.
I was going to say, do it 300 tests.
You're
Great.
good, dude.
Awesome.
Like, no problem. I'm not dealing with this, because at the end of the day, they can't build an insurance code to prescribe anything for you at those ranges. Technically, they can, but they won't.
Right.
And then you end up in a situation where, like, people are getting their symptoms treated. No one's getting the root cause of anything fixed, because that doesn't benefit the whole, the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, there's that, but then also to expect people to expect the general public to fix the root issue, it's much easier to just say, here's medication to fix it right now.
And most people would rather that.
I want to go back.
It's also what's realistic for people too.
Instant gratification, man. We live in America. Like, for most people, that's good. That's why Retatrutide is so popular. That's why peptides are so popular. Because most people would rather take some shit versus address the things that are the little things that are actually going to fix them.
Even
sunlight,
from
walking.
Even again from the gut example, like I want to
drink some water.
Yeah,
let's drink some water.
That'd be great. Yeah, but I want to go back to this just real quick, because I tell people this and they look at me like I'm nuts until they realize that it's true. But even going back to the whole stomach acidity thing, like having heartburn, acid reflux, whatever, what is the average American taught to do in that situation? Go to the store and buy some Tums, and anytime you have acid reflux, you just chew on some Tums, and it's going to help in the moment. Because if you have low stomach acid, the sphincter at the bottom of your esophagus doesn't close all the way, so that acid goes upstream, which is going to cause acid reflux and heartburn. So now you swallow these Tums and it kills the acid that's upstream, but it's also killing the low stomach acid that you have downstream, which is going to further reinforce the issue that you're having. But it's fixing the symptom in the moment. So they think it's working.
Exactly.
And Tums, like, that's not even a medication. You can go in the store and just buy as much of it as you want.
Was it a sodium bicarbonate? I think is what it is?
Multi-million, billion-dollar industry just off some Tums, and it's keeping people sick. Right. And they don't even understand. My stepmom, right? She's God, best, most amazing woman you could ever meet. She's
a saint.
She's dealing with stage 4 cancer now. She was a breast cancer survivor. It came back, just horrible, right? I remember back when I was still in PA, before I came back to Arizona, I came back, so she was going through the whole process again. Dude, these doctors, now mind you, someone with stage 4 cancer, you can 100% guarantee there's some gut dysfunction going on. All the different meds they're on, the path of getting to that point initially, there's gut dysfunction that was going on for a very long time, right?
Well, you're going to destroy your microbiome with just like the
100%. But it already was to get there, and then they're destroying it more with all these different things. But the cancer had traveled to her bones, right? So they tell her she needs calcium, right? So rather than telling her to maybe take like a good calcium supplement, they had her taking Tums every day for the calcium in the Tums.
Isn't that crazy?
And then that's decreasing stomach acid.
Of course.
Dude, is that not fucking insane? Yeah. You're like, to get calcium, take some Tums?
Yeah, which isn't the only form of calcium to be taken.
Bro, that's that's absolutely... Yo, when she told me that, and when I'm being told that, like, these medical professionals that's what they're advising you to do, to get calcium, I almost don't even have words for that.
The reality is, like, as far as America goes, Western medicine, if you break some shit, you break your arm, you break your leg, something.
Yeah.
Nobody does it better. You go to the hospital.
Surgeons love
nobody does it better.
My dad had open heart surgery. Surgeon. I'm functional health coach. I'm not cutting into someone's chest.
Nobody
does fixing their heart.
But as far as going to the doctor for something on your blood work, I don't feel good. That's the last person I would listen to.
I think I mostly agree. Like, perfect example of where I would agree is you take some guy who's 30 years old, his LDL is 130. You know, it's a little bit elevated. Sure. The doctor says, "Oh, we got to put you on a statin."
Crazy,
right?
Crazy.
So that I would say you're retarded, and you should maybe try, losing some weight.
Now, mind you, they'll do that without checking ApoB, without looking
absolutely
at...
just looking at HDL and
obviously
LDL.
it's genetic, but without looking at LPA, like without any of that stuff. So
and just immediately go to a statin. I think I've recently learned an example where it actually does make sense is, a parent who's in their mid to late 60s and is definitely overweight. Their LDL is in the 200s. Okay, I'm not anti-statin in that case. Yeah. Like, it makes sense. You don't have time to spend trying to lose weight.
It makes sense there.
Right.
But that's what it was designed for. So it wasn't designed for the person that you explained before that, and they're still doing the same thing for that person. I would
argue, because again, like our views on this stuff are very similar. I would argue that we're not completely anti any medication. Like, they all have their place. It's just the overprescription of them. So
absolutely,
like you mentioned, like with a statin, if you have an individual like that's
30 years old, maybe has an extra 10 pounds of fat on him.
No. I'm saying somebody whose cholesterol is like way elevated, they're older. So
yeah, 65.
For that individual, I would say, but again, the way that it's done. So it's like a lot of doctors, all right, this is what you're taking for life. The smart thing to do would be like, all right, let's put you on a statin in the meantime to bring these numbers down
as you're losing
while
weight.
you while you fix the thing that's actually causing it.
Right.
Then take you off the statin and everything will be fine. That's a good way to use it.
Another big one that I just want to put this out there is doctors are not going to also tell you to take ubiquinol or CoQ10 while taking a statin. I've seen it too many times.
Again, they're not going to tell you.
Again, my dad got open heart surgery. They put him on these medications, blood pressure medications, the statins. Who was the one that put a supplement protocol together for him to take while he's on these meds, the statins? Right. It was me. It wasn't the doctors.
They're not telling you, because your mitochondria will deplete in CoQ10, which you need. The statins will deplete CoQ10 in your mitochondria. Mm-hmm. You need to replace the CoQ10 from taking the statin, and doctors are not telling you to take that supplement.
Remind me again, how much of your cholesterol is actually in your brain?
So I was just going
What's
to
the
bring
number?
that
I don't
up.
remember the number. But these statins don't discriminate.
So the other aspect of
Right,
it, right?
absolutely.
So that's where we see people that are on statins developing
Dementia.
like very early dementia, right? Because you're depleting the cholesterol in your brain.
Horrible.
Like, we need cholesterol, so that's another thing that doesn't get talked about enough. That's a very real risk.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people, I mean, dude, I've talked to guys in their late 20s that are getting, or their doctors wanting to put them on a statin. Meanwhile, at that age, like that.
But that's what the medical system wants. They want the guy like my dad to get the open heart surgery and be on these meds, and now boom, in another 8 to 10 years, now he's got dementia, and now he's got to be going and getting treated for that.
There's a very real reason that we, all of us, have clients that are doctors. Because they're not taught this shit in medical school.
No, absolutely. I have a few doctors that I coach.
Right.
Because exactly.
How many doctors are out here leaving the practice they work for, the hospital, whatever the case may be, and starting their own functional health business? The amount of doctors that are getting rid of their doctor job and doing what we do for a living, but they're just doing it with credentials. Because they're people like us who are open-minded, and they can look at the industry they're working in and be like, yo, this is wrong.
That's the thing. Like, I think like the way we're talking about it comes off that we're all very like anti-doctor. We're not anti-doctor.
Not at all.
We're anti, I guess,
the industry,
big pharma.
Yeah.
The role of capitalism within medicine.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I'll say I'm anti-doctor if you're the type of doctor that isn't open-minded and you're ignorant and you think just because you studied and got this piece of just because you got this piece of paper, you think what you learned is the end-all be-all. That's when I'm anti-doctor. But
when the doctor is anti-root cause.
That's essentially what I'm saying.
We actually like that's why we're definitely gonna have to do an episode with my friend Gabby. She's also a client. I was telling you, so Gabriella Schwartzberg, she's a pelvic floor specialist, one of the best in the country, works out of Brooklyn, New York, but she's very much like that, to where she's a doctor. She, formally trained, and she's not an MD per se, but like she's still in that world, and she'll be the first person to tell you, like, dude, the way that they do things is completely wrong, because she works with patients with all kinds of crazy fucking problems, like things that I wouldn't touch, because that's her scope, that's her area of expertise. But that's the doctors that are the ones that actually give a shit about what they do,
right? And like not being a pill pusher,
right?
There's a huge difference between a doctor who's just going to say, you don't need to follow a diet, you don't need to go to the gym, like not even going to address those, and just say you got to take a statin, metformin, this, that, and ignore the basic foundations.
Training on nutrition, training.
No, they don't.
Any of these things.
They're not required to take any nutrition classes in med school,
which is absolutely insane.
Or exercise. I mean, I don't know about the exercise, but I would assume they don't have to learn about exercise.
Absolutely not.
It's from what I've heard, it's like a couple of hours of coursework on that.
Why is it?
And
not
who knows
a year
what
it's maybe like one lecture.
I mean, case in point. You could argue that they're busy. We're all busy, but why are majority of doctors in horrible shape? Most doctors have terrible health themselves. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
So,
that's the biggest issue.
Back to even working with a coach, like, I mean, dude, like, if you wouldn't hire a fat guy to be your fitness coach, which I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of people hire a fat guy to be their fitness coach. I don't understand it, but at the same time, why would I sit in front of a doctor that's red in the face and has high blood pressure, fucking obese?
I'd argue that 9 times out of 10, for example, take someone with a thyroid problem, right? This same doctor that's treating their thyroid problem probably has a thyroid problem themselves.
Right.
And they're taking the same meds because they believe that's the fix.
I've seen in the past.
Hence why we have clients that are doctors.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen in the past, not right now, but in the past, my dad's cardiologist was obese. Crazy. Right.
Is that not insane?
So it's like, how can you stand there and talk to your patient about gut health, or not gut health, heart health, sorry. About heart health
when you're just going to get McDonald's after work,
and look at you. Yeah, like, I'm expected to sit there and trust what you're telling me.
And they learned about medicine, cool, but that's not going to fix the actual issue.
But what's funny? You still have a very large amount of people out there that will listen to what we're saying and be like, "Oh, fuck these guys, they're full of shit." This guy has credentials,
exactly,
right?
Because we're not a doctor.
But here's my thing, right? Yeah. All right, they have the credential, the piece of paper, right? But let's look at their track record. Like, if we view their patients as a roster of clients, like you would with coaching, you have this roster of patients, clients, whatever. of a bunch of people that are on a grocery list of medications. But then you can look at people like us who have this roster of clients, this track record of people coming off of medications that they've been on for years. And that still isn't enough. These people self-identify with the issues they've been brainwashed into thinking are permanent. It's like so hard that they don't want to accept that there's like a fix, which to me is crazy. If someone was showing, if I had one of these issues and there was someone out there not only telling me that there's an actual solution, but showing me proof of people dealing with the same thing that have been given that solution, I would be all over it. But they're still going to say, oh, but this guy's, he's got this piece of paper, I'm going to take this fucking prescription.
I think a good counter argument would be like, if medications, they do work, like it is going to pull your cholesterol down, or, you know, metformin's going to pull your blood glucose down. Drugs work, medications work. Why are they a bad thing? Or I think one way to look at it is because a lot of medications have side effects or unwanted effects, metformin being a perfect example. So you could tell somebody comes to me and says, my blood glucose is high. I'm not going to say, let's start metformin. I'm going to say, let's try losing some weight first. And we go through that process.
It's like, I mean,
metformin that's going to cause birth defects.
Like you could start with something like a
They also don't even know about that too.
Right. So the thing about it, like a lot of people watching, they don't realize that there are natural alternatives to a lot of these medications, which will probably get the job done before going that route.
But that also comes back to what you mentioned earlier of the two scenarios where, all right, this prescription, this medication does make sense for this specific person and not this one. But the mass majority of the people that are receiving it are the people that it does not make sense for.
And they're being overprescribed unnecessarily, when I am of the belief that less drugs is better if you can still have optimal health outcomes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you went down the route, again, it's just one of those things of like, why is that the first course of action when it doesn't have to be? If you go down the whole path of trying to fix it, fix the root cause, the solution, and you just don't get there, take the prescription, do what you need to do. But I'd argue that doesn't really happen if things are done right.
Here's the thing, though. What you mentioned, you're 100% right. Like, drugs do work. I mean, there's a reason we have the clinical trials. Like, they work. They do what they say they're supposed to do. The problem arises when you have people that stay on these drugs for life.
Absolutely.
That they're tools. They're not meant for that. Now, I know someone could argue like, okay, like for instance, like I'm on testosterone for life. I'm going to be on TRT for the rest of my life. Why wouldn't I just have my natural levels if I don't believe in staying on drugs for the rest of your life? Because there's a big difference between taking drugs to mask or band-aid over a deeper issue versus using certain compounds to optimize your life. There's a massive
I'm gonna be that
difference
guy,
there.
just in the, you hypocrite.
Yeah. Like that's why I'm saying, like somebody's gonna sit there and be like, oh, but you're on fucking steroids, 100%. Like but there's a big difference between optimizing and then taking something and using it as a crutch for the rest of your life while you continue living your shitty lifestyle.
Exactly. That's kind of where peptides come into play. There's a huge benefit around those. They can also be misused. Absolutely.
Right. Everything can be misused.
Especially with the testosterone can, steroids can.
We can get it. I'm sure some people asked about the GLP-1s. We can get into that too.
I mean, I do have a whole list of questions here.
We've got some strong opinions there, you know. Like,
well, might as well start,
the Instagram questions. Yeah, run through
So, I mean, I got a pretty good list here.
Beautiful.
What do we got?
One that we kind of almost talked about thyroid. If you've heard this, the question is, could L-carnitine potentially hinder fat loss because of its inhibition on T3 and T4?
I've heard of this, actually. I have. You know who I heard talk about this?
I heard Don Cardone talk about it like last year.
I heard this one dude, Optimal Nathan, his Instagram.
Yeah, I've seen him recently.
I've seen him talk about it. I haven't dove deep enough to.
I have last year. I did. So it doesn't decrease conversion of T4 to T3. It antagonizes at the actual cell T3 uptake. So you're getting less effects of T3. So the question is, could L-carnitine potentially hinder fat loss because of that effect to an extent? If you're taking 4 grams of injectable L-carnitine per day, you're going to start antagonizing some of the effects of T3 on the cell. But just don't take that much L-carnitine.
I was gonna say, I think it comes down to, like I just mentioned, there's right and wrong ways of literally taking anything, right?
Like if you're taking 500 milligrams a day.
Well, my question would be, how much does it affect actual conversion? Because I would go back and sit there and say that having bad gut health inhibits conversion a lot.
Well, it's not about conversion. It's about uptake.
Okay. So
the
the
cell.
uptake. Okay, I see. So how effective is a T3 once it already is converted? Like,
Right. So you have this amount of T3 circulating, and if you're taking 5 grams of L-carnitine per day, you know, some of that's going to antagonize how much T3 can actually go into the cell.
I would like to really look at the research as it pertains to it.
I think it's probably like 2 grams is probably like the max amount you could take.
I feel like it's negligible, like how much inhibition it actually
I think you would need to take a certain amount that would just make 0 sense whatsoever.
Well, here's the other thing about it, though.
But you're going to see effects like
Here's the other thing about
doses.
it, though. Like, why the fuck, like, L-carnitine isn't really that instrumental in fat loss.
It's not instrumental. I
don't think it's that big of a deal.
No, I think you can get shredded without it.
Right.
I think
and it hurts.
People do it all the time.
Does hurt.
It hurts.
Yeah,
That's
people
what a lot of people don't know. It
I mean,
hurts.
I'll put it. I've been.
Someone's gonna call me a pussy. I don't care.
I mean, listen,
it hurts
like
a bitch.
I've been shredded numerous times in my life. I've never taken L-carnitine.
Yeah.
There you go. So I
You
think
know?
it's definitely, I think it can be a good tool for, let's say it actually is considered natural. Like if you compete in a natural bodybuilding show,
Sure, yeah.
I think it absolutely can make sense to take it because it's one of the tools you can use to help with shuttling free fatty acids into mitochondria, which, you know, when intramuscular carnitine stores deplete from hard training, from lower protein intake, from, you know, lower micronutrient intake, it can make sense that if you have lower intramuscular carnitine stores, that you're not going to burn fat as effectively, because that's where the fat burning actually happens, is in the muscle cells. So taking L-carnitine, even at high doses, you know, orally, can help with that process. But I don't know if, you know, you're already going to get shredded, especially if you're enhanced. I don't know if it actually always makes sense. I think it's like, if you want to take it 500 to 1,000 milligrams, sure. But also if you're injecting, you know, 3 milliliters a day of oil, maybe save yourself the injection.
Right. That's what I'm
Exactly.
thinking. I think there's a lot of emphasis around L-carnitine right now. Now, like taking it orally, I feel like is a fucking waste of time, in my opinion.
I think the only time that it makes sense is if you're natural and you do not want to inject anything at all. I think, you know, if you take, because it's like, what is like 5 to 20% bioavailable.
But at that point, I'd rather save my money. I'd rather not even spend the money on the, you know. But at the same time, even as an injectable, like if you're already using peptides and you're already doing injections, you're in that place where you're doing shots. There's other things you could use that are going to work better than L-carnitine if the goal is for fat burning.
Yeah,
my
definitely.
opinion.
I mean,
And
like growth hormone, absolutely.
growth hormone, you could use your.
But they have different mechanisms of action. You got growth hormone that's going to help with actual like lipolysis and freeing it from the fatty acids, versus L-carnitine kind of takes that from what growth hormone just did and helps actually use it for ATP.
Then you're talking about, like, again, what you just mentioned, save yourself the injection. Because at what point do you start feeling like a pincushion? Because now you've got your gear,
Absolutely.
You've got, you know, your peptides, and then you have to shoot L-carnitine intramuscular to where it feels like a fucking golf ball.
And also, if you take it orally at effective dosages, it can affect your gut, absolutely. But also, I know that L-carnitine increases TMAO, if you've heard of that, which it directly negatively affects your heart health.
Yeah.
So it's not side effect free. It's not, you know, negative health effect free to be taking, you know, whatever it is, 5 grams of oral acetyl L-carnitine per day. I think maybe, you know, in like I've had, you know, a few natural guys competing in like OCB shows. I think 1 or 2 of them I had take oral L-carnitine because it's like, all right, you know, if we want to speed this up, what
Try
can we
it
use?
out, yeah, why not?
And so we threw it in with yohimbine. You know, that's the combo.
See, and yohimbine's another one, honestly, that's very interesting because, like, what I'll do now with people, I mean, I don't really work with competitors anymore, but like what I would do now is I'd probably pull it out like a week or 2 before the show.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
it does make you retain water.
It makes you retain water, but also think about how it affects your nervous system. And so if you're trying to be as relaxed as possible
Right.
for show day, but also for, you know, glucose uptake, for being able to actually lose body fat, you know, if you're too much in a sympathetic state from that increase in norepinephrine from yohimbine.
Oh, that'll ruin everything.
Right. So I don't think more yohimbine is always better, but it can definitely help with, you know, the last little bit of body fat.
I think yohimbine
in a
is a
fasted
very
state.
like particular kind of tool. I don't think everybody does well with it.
There's another question that's pretty similar is,
Yeah.
would you run Clen into the show or pull it out to carb up?
Pull it out to carb up. What does
Right.
that have to do with?
Right.
Okay, so I mean, there's no stupid questions, but the Clen.
Whatever makes sense to run Clen into a show. I'm gonna say no because you don't want to be shaking on stage. I just want to
start with so people, Clen and the carb up have nothing to really do with each other. Like I'll just put it out there right now. Like it's not.
Okay, the way he phrased that question, yeah, you're right. Like you can still carb up on Clen.
I just don't want people to think like, oh, I gotta like the Clen is gonna affect my carb up.
Maybe there's confusion with like Retatrutide. Like you want to pull that out.
Sure.
To
well, that's a whole different conversation. I do want to get into like the Retatrutide and like the GLP-1s, because that's gonna be important. But can you run Clen into a show? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we do it pretty similarly. I like to cycle it. Like I won't put anybody on more than 80 MCGs.
No, I think that's the highest I've gone. Yeah.
Like I'll just go like start at 20.
Well, I'll say this actually. I think some Clen can be underdosed, and I definitely have seen where guys have had it in their cabinet for 3 years, and it's just it's not as potent. So they're running 160 milligrams and they're not feeling it.
Right. Okay. Well, that make because it's crashed or whatever. Right. That would make sense.
I hate to be that guy, but like this is typically my mindset when it comes to, and again, like we don't work with competitors really at all anymore, but it's like majority of the people that are out here taking Clen, taking large amounts of Clen, they're getting on stage like 5-6 weeks out. They're not even close to ready. Yeah. So like I'd argue that like again, this is like outside of the question, but it's just like majority of the time from what I see is most people shouldn't even be using it because it's not doing anything for them because they're not even in.
So Clen for most people is not going to be the make or break thing of whether you get in shape or not. Personally, like I was saying, I didn't use it last year for that prep. I got very lean like for the first summer shredding show. Like I just don't think it's necessary, and sometimes like the side effects that it comes with aren't enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it feels like shit. But I also think that noticeably with myself, with my clients, it does speed up fat loss if you're doing everything else right. And I also am not going to throw it in at the beginning of a cut either. That's another big mistake.
You know what's interesting though? Like what I was just thinking, I almost feel as though it would make sense to do it at the beginning when you have a higher tolerance for the side effects, to where you have a little more food, you're recovering a little better, your sleep is still pretty good.
I think it depends on what the whole timeline looks like. I'm talking about like in a prep, I wouldn't say it makes sense necessarily to do it that way versus if, let's say, you're starting like a push phase, like an off season, and you're trying to do a mini cut. Absolutely, I could see that. You do it for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. But in prep, sure, can it be done? Absolutely. Yeah. If someone's really fat and you want to start them off like with a hard push, throw some Tren in there, to help with nutrient partitioning and throwing Clen for the first 4 weeks and then you pull it out. Yeah, could make sense. But also like I'd rather maybe start, and that's also assuming, like what's their cardio at? What's their diet like? Maybe let's do those first, right?
It's very nuanced. Yeah, it really depends on the starting point of the individual.
And generally, they're not going to have like a bunch. They're not already doing a bunch of cardio. They're not already in a big deficit.
Well, really, if we're talking about prep, you should be starting your prep already in decent shape, like
to where you don't need Clen at the start.
Right. So it's like that's one aspect of it. Now, if you're just doing a cut, like if we're talking about just a person that wants to do a cut, get lean for vacation, summer, whatever, you don't need to be using Clen.
You don't need to be using it. I think if there's interest, then sure, like if you're gonna do it regardless, like I'll help you, I'll guide you the right way.
Sure, yeah.
We'll start with 20 micrograms and run it for a short duration. Maybe go up to 40, and probably just stop at 40.
100%. I mean, most people, like most just like people that aren't competing, I think a lot of times, like if there's interest in it. So one of the things that I try to do when clients come to me with like they're interested in trying this drug or that peptide or whatever, if I don't see a real use for them for that compound, to where like they don't really need to use that to get to their goal. Will it help? Maybe, but like how much is it really going to help? 2-3%? Is it really? I mean, so
you also know like our philosophy, how we've bodybuilded ourselves over the years.
Less is more.
Very, very minimal. Yeah. Like, listen, at the end of the day, if someone's coming to us, whatever, and they're just set on using this specific thing, whatever it is, and that's just what it is, they want to take it, They're going to take it anyway.
Right.
Are we going to guide them to do it the right way and as optimally as possible?
Depends on the compound, but generally,
right. Yeah, it depends.
I had one guy come to me.
Compound, yeah.
I had one guy came to me. He was noticeably fat, like 30% body fat, and like barely any muscle. And he said that he only wants to take, I think it was Methyl-Tren.
What?
Well, if they're not even in shape.
Yeah, and he said he's taking Tren at, I think he said he's taking 200 milligrams a day.
I don't even want to talk about Methyl-Tren on the podcast because now people are gonna know what the fuck it is. So don't take Methyl-Tren.
Anyways, the fentanyl of steroids, basically.
Yeah, there's no scenario where anybody needs to use Methyl-Tren.
He thinks that's gonna build more muscle.
Full disclaimer: I have tried it. I'm not even gonna. I've tried. Have you ever?
I've never tried it. No, I've seen it in person, but no.
It's like the most hard-hitting compound that I have ever used.
Fuck that.
It sounds interesting here.
So So I was using it. I'm very transparent. I used it pre-workout. It wasn't like an everyday thing. If I'm not mistaken, it was like 10 milligrams. You're shooting pre-workout, dude. Ridiculous. But the thing that people have to keep in mind, like Tren by itself already is extremely neurotoxic.
It's Tren, yeah.
It's Tren, extremely neurotoxic, horrible for you.
Now imagine oral Tren.
Now you're talking about like Methyl-Tren, not a good idea.
So like
that shit gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
This guy that like came to me on Instagram and said that like I need to take this, like I want to take this. I got on a phone call with him trying to convince him like, there's other ways to go about this. Maybe let's take a look at your diet, training, maybe a different cycle. Still be aggressive with the cycle, sure, but like
go let another coach fuck you up.
I didn't end up coaching him. I told him I'm not gonna co-sign this.
No.
And
you have to turn those people away because they're just digging themselves into an early grave.
Exactly.
Well,
I'm not gonna be part of that.
You don't want anything to do with it.
My philosophy too is very simple. It's like if I'm very minimal from a bodybuilding perspective, if you take someone that's in no world trying to bodybuild, compete, whatever the case may be.
Even if they are competing with something like that.
But I'm saying like someone that just wants to be in shape. They just want to get in good shape and whatever their goal is. Why do you need anything really? That's my opinion. Like if I wasn't competitive in any sort of way, the most I would take is maybe testosterone, but that's already because I've taken it and now it makes the most sense for me to stay on TRT, obviously. But because it also ties into the people that aren't competitive and they're just trying to be in generally good shape. If they're sitting there wanting to take all these different things, I already kind of know that they're the person that doesn't really want to work that hard.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take a lot to just get in good shape.
Context is very important for these things.
If you're just trying to get in shape, you just want to be lean, build some muscle, and you're trying to do that with everything but training and nutrition, I don't see a point. Like if I never got into bodybuilding, I never would have started taking like drugs and steroids and shit. Because I just want to be in good shape. You can do that like
naturally, absolutely.
Well, right now the perspective is so fucked up. People think that it's impossible to get in good shape naturally. Like you look at somebody that just looks decent. Like they just have some abs, a little bit of muscle, and everyone's just like, oh, he's on gear. Like why? You know what I mean? Like he looks very normal to me. It all goes back
to like the instant gratification culture that we have, unfortunately.
Yeah, and drugs are fun. Drugs are cool. Everybody says,
it's crazy.
Tren is amazing. Retatrutide is amazing. You got to try this new drug. And it's like, that's way more exciting than going on 10,000 steps a day.
Did anybody ask about the Retatrutide? Like, I'm just curious.
It's also like a pride or like an ego thing.
I think that's just I think that's an important point to discuss.
For me, it's like I would feel a certain type of way almost as a man if I'm out here and I'm not a bodybuilder and like I'm taking these different drugs just to be in shape. Like why do I need these drugs and stuff to just get in shape?
It's just
that doesn't make sense.
You figure, you know what? Like anybody's entitled to do whatever they want to do in terms of like whatever drugs, whatever they want to do to their body for the result that they want. That's not the problem. The problem is just the reality of like you have to come off the drugs, and when you do, your body is just going to bounce back to whatever sack of shit you were looking like prior to taking Methyl-Tren. So you still don't really win anything. So now you've probably got even worse body image issues.
You know what a good example is? Like take like an actor of some sort, like a movie. You take a regular actor that just gets like ripped for a role, and all these regular people are like steroids, Meanwhile, we're looking at them, and it's like I looked like that naturally.
But the funny
like
thing
16.
is, a lot of times it is steroids.
A lot of times,
they are. Yeah.
No, 100%. A lot of times
right.
it is for sure. But that's the problem, because it doesn't.
But again, we're talking about something that's now in a realm of something completely different. If you're getting paid like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to get in shape for this role, by all means, take all the fucking steroids that you can take. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it's like if we're just talking about looking good on the beach, taking an Instagram selfie, I think it's ridiculous.
I'm thinking about like my clients, for example, the guys that, you know, come to me and, you know, they're like, I'll be honest, guys don't come to me generally like 99% of the time not wanting to work hard, not wanting to train hard, and like only looking for drugs. I think 99% of the time guys come to me already either wanting to train hard or training hard, wanting to have some help with their diet, but also wanting to maybe, you know, tiptoe a little bit more into like more than just TRT. That's kind of like the demographic,
TRT
I think.
plus, we call it.
Tiptoeing is cool.
Yeah,
like
to
tiptoeing
build
is
muscle,
all right, but
like,
a lot of people are trying to fucking
thing is like-
sprint.
I mean, dude, tiptoeing is we're talking about like testosterone, maybe a little Anavar.
or a little growth hormone, or maybe a little primo if, you know, they're really trying to build more muscle.
Crazy,
Well, I also view tiptoeing as like, all right, whatever compound you want to call it, peptides, steroids, whatever. Tiptoeing, I think, like from a dosage standpoint, like,
Absolutely.
like respectable, low, like
Yeah, we're not running 600
But
milligrams
most people
test.
are fucking sprinting, dude. It's like, yo, first cycle, they're, you know, I'm sure you get a bunch of questions. Is fucking 600 test enough? And it's like, yo, I've never even ran 600
They'll come to me
tests.
with their first cycle of being 600, 750 tests with another like 600, 750, you know, whatever it's Mastron, or like, is this a good first cycle?
That's
Absolutely
crazy.
not.
That's
Or
absolutely
come
insane.
to me saying like, let's start the milligrams of a compound at 5, 6, 7, 800 milligrams. Why don't we start with 200 and maybe work our way up, because we're going to get a lot out of starting it at any amount and then progressing from there.
Well, that's always been my thought process too. Like, why would I not want to take the absolute least and I'll up it if it's not working per se.
Like if you need more, but you don't necessarily need.
If I can get the result from, let's say, 300, 350 test, why would I sit here and be like, I want to take 800? You know what I mean?
This is a very like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe someone from like overseas will chime in the comments, but I think this is a very American approach to the way people try to do it in terms of like bigger, more,
but again,
supersized.
An example I want to make though.
Well, think about like Russian, you know, protocols, or, you know, like maybe like even like British, or like I feel like they're.
Well, look, hold on. An example I want to make though is like, because I'm sitting here, you know, giving my thought process, but it's like I don't have the intentions of being like, you know, 250 plus pounds, being a professional IFBB pro bodybuilder. It's like, you know, a friend of ours, so Ryan Reese, right? Mm-hmm. Someone like him might be listening to this being like, why wouldn't you want to take the most? Look, if your goal is to be like a professional bodybuilder.
We're not talking about that.
Like if you want to be some kind of freak and like that's actually what your goal is,
see how much you can tolerate.
Take as much as you want, absolutely.
We're not talking about that.
No.
We're not talking about
I just thought of it from someone like Ryan's perspective, because he would be sitting here listening to this like, oh, I'm trying to take as much as it takes.
But that's the thing. Like Ryan's doing this.
Exactly.
Like he's
most people
bodybuilding.
Most people aren't.
Yeah,
and
but
they're trying to do what someone like him is doing.
Ryan doesn't miss a meal.
Nothing.
He doesn't miss a drop of fucking water. He doesn't miss
year-round
a step of his whatever is programmed for him.
And he's not somebody who's going to be, you know, missing out on all those things and making up for it with more milligrams.
Right.
Exactly.
Thinking like, well, you know, I'm way behind. I got to build
every
more muscle.
milligram he takes,
take more steroids.
Is doing what it's supposed to do.
Work.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. It's like
difference.
Somebody with, you know, 250 pounds or whatever of lean muscle can absolutely tolerate, you know, 2 grams easily of total milligrams.
A dude like Ryan, his results show that. It speaks for that. You see like what he's done in the span of like 2 years, whatever. Yeah. But then you look at most of these people that are doing the doses that he's doing
with less muscle.
Maybe they gained like 5 pounds in like a year, like just some that doesn't make sense.
Like we can talk about the I guess you could call it the bottom end of the spectrum of that too. Like guys that get on TRT. And they get on TRT without being ready to take it. Like their body fat's high, you know. But it's like, but the reason that I want to get into that is because like a lot of the guys you work with, a lot of the guys we work with, that's what they're doing. They're not running cycles. They don't give a shit about, you know, getting on stage. So it's like, I think there's a lot of mistakes when it comes to that too. I mean, you have the people that take fucking Clomid instead of TRT, which to me is like.
That's
like jokes. Like
every single time basically every single time that somebody comes to me saying they're, you know, wanting to take enclomiphene and HCG, or they already are taking it, they end up going to TRT.
They have to.
Right.
But then you have the issue of a lot of guys will be on TRT, but they'll also be on an AI. And for whatever reason, I mean, maybe you know, because I'm not really sure, like, why, like, I don't know why doctors will prescribe a Arimidex, like, right off, like,
it's retarded.
They don't start with, like, Aromacin.
It's the wrong method.
They do it without even looking at blood work.
So
that's the problem.
They don't even at lipids. They're nothing. Yeah.
So so the blood work that they draw in a lot of these TRT clinics, obviously, you know, is very limited. But it's also like, my thing is, if you're on TRT, like if you're on testosterone replacement therapy, let's say you're even on TRT plus, you're pushing into like 1,000, 1,100, you know, nanograms per deciliter. Like, let's say you're that. You shouldn't fucking need really an AI to run that.
Right. The goal of TRT should be to see how much testosterone you can tolerate by itself without. Now, I think the time where it makes sense to have Arimidex, especially over Aromacin, is because if, let's say, the doctor prescribes you a conservative dose, let's say 140 milligrams, and let's say you just, you know, start having crazy estrogenic side effects from it. Okay, well, now you have Arimidex on hand to use it, you know, once, you know, 1 milligram or, you know, 1 milligram once a week or twice a week, whatever, as you bring your testosterone dosage back down, and then you don't need Arimidex.
So this is my argument, though. Like, if you're running 140 milligrams of testosterone and you're getting heavy estrogenic side effects, there's a reason for that.
Body fat's too high and not enough muscle.
Too high, but you can also...
There could be a conversion issue going on.
But you can also bring that back to gut issues.
Gut issues, you know, too high of, calcium
beta glucuronidase.
Right, yeah.
So, like, beta glucuronidase will literally... So, people at home don't know, the way your body clears out estrogen is your liver binds it up, ships it out. The beta glucuronidase comes in and takes the binder, takes the tag off of the estrogen, and it ends up recirculating. So you start to get side effects on something like 150 mg of testosterone. So instead of addressing that, they'll prescribe an AI, which may have an effect on lipids, which fucking might crash your estrogen, which they'll feel even worse. And now they're stuck being like, oh, why didn't TRT work for me?
Right, because they're not implementing the functional medicine approach. They're, you know, using Western medicine.
They're not looking at it from the cell going up, because it's like, all right, like let's go down to the smallest common denominator and let's go back up and see what's causing this issue. Because it's like, what are you react poorly to testosterone? Maybe, but that's a very tiny percentage of people that you literally, like, you take 140 mgs and then you get these estrogen side effects. There's something else.
There's a reason for that.
It could be body fat, it could be muscle mass, and it absolutely can be an estrogen recirculation problem of, you know, sluggish bile flow, too high glucuronidase.
There's usually some sort of dysfunction that's causing
and they're going to prescribe Arimidex over something like calcium D-glucarate, for example, with a whole gut protocol.
Calcium D-glucarate, like, so it's very interesting the way that gets addressed, and I think that's why a lot of guys, like, I mean, we get a lot of guys that come in and they're just like, I'm taking TRT, I still feel like shit. I still can't lose weight. I'm still fucking depressed.
I can't take more than 100 milligrams without side effects.
But then they go on the AI and they still feel like shit, or they feel worse because, I mean, you know, like when you crash your estrogen, you're gonna feel like shit.
Oh yeah.
So it's, you know, it's an interesting, like, dynamic that happens there.
I didn't have any questions about Retatrutide specifically.
Anything about GLP-1s? Because we can get into that. Like, that's a big one.
What's the biggest issue that you see going on right now with GLP-1s and Retatrutide?
The lack of screening of gut health before the prescription of it. So,
absolutely.
What a lot of people don't realize, I mean, let's put things into perspective first. These drugs were developed for obese people.
Diabetics,
obese people, like people with true chronic conditions. They weren't developed for the person trying to drop an extra 15 pounds to go to the beach, but they don't want to feel hungry when they're dieting, so they take Retatrutide. Like, the main purpose of these drugs was not appetite suppression per se. Like, that's one of the functions, but that wasn't the main thing.
Well, for the GLP-1 receptor agonist by itself, which there was liraglutide, there was, you know, all these until they got semaglutide, which was Ozempic, which became popular. That specifically did two things. It would increase insulin production to help with shuttling blood glucose for diabetics and to decrease appetite for less food intake for diabetics. And that's what it was made for. And now it got brought into bodybuilding and fitness and soccer moms and everybody who wants to lose weight, or even people who don't know anything and just want to build muscle.
Not to go too off topic, but just because I thought about this one woman that goes to my girlfriend's work, dental office in the city, right? She was a plus size model, right? And I'm not gonna dive into this because it's a bit of a separate topic, but I have to bring it up. So it's interesting how this whole plus size thing was being accepted as like plus size is beautiful, like plus size models became a thing. But then as soon as these things came out that can just miraculously make you lose weight, now all these plus size models are taking them and they're losing 30, 40 pounds.
Well, it's all bullshit. But nobody wants to be fat.
I thought plus size was beautiful though. Like what happened, But then it also, but then it brings me back. It's like, again, taking the hard part out of getting these results, right?
Right. Nobody. I
had to bring that up.
Yeah, nobody really wants to be fat at the end of the day.
Now we're seeing the truth.
You don't know my fantasies. You don't know what I like to do in my free time.
Yeah, right.
Listen, this might become a different podcast now. But listen,
that's some secrets.
Listen, at the end of the day, people are getting handed out GLP-1s like nothing. Nobody's screening for gut health. Now, there's a study that I've discussed with you multiple times, but 80% of the people that are on GLP-1s people that are on GLP-1s are 80% more likely to develop a gut dysfunction like SIBO, dysbiosis, whatever.
Which makes sense.
Right, to us. But most people get on it thinking it's like a weight loss medication, when the reality is this stuff slows your motility. Yeah. So you're not clearing shit out of your body as much. So technically from a metabolic standpoint, you're slowing everything down. You might have better insulin sensitivity, but what does that really mean if you're not clearing anything?
And what if it's leading to gut issues, which is leading to, serotonin issues?
So we discussed this earlier, right? So most people do have a gut issue, especially in America where, gut health is not the greatest.
Especially on GLP-1s.
Well, this is the thing. So now someone's gut health isn't great. They're obese. Let's say they're not even obese. They're just kind of chunky. They haven't been eating great. Now you put them, they've got something going on. They've got something, So now you put them on this GLP-1. Motility slows down. So now whatever's in there, fermentation might increase, whatever's happening. Now, let's say at the same time they start trying to eat healthier. Their body doesn't have... without the GLP-1, didn't have the means to break this stuff down. Mm-hmm. Now they're on the GLP-1, so now they're eating healthy. Now they're getting bloated, and they're going, "What the hell's going on? I'm taking my GLP-1. I'm eating healthy. I'm doing these things. I feel and look worse." Mm-hmm. How do you explain that? Nobody screened for gut health. Now, even in the research that I was talking about, even those researchers at the end of it came in and said, it's pretty irresponsible that practitioners aren't screening for gut dysfunction prior to putting someone on these things, because ultimately, yeah, you might lose some weight, but again, how much of that weight is going to be muscle? How much of it is going to be fat when you do have some kind of overgrowth issue while you're taking these drugs? And then when you come off these drugs, you've now got to fix the gut issues regardless.
Absolutely.
And they're worse. Now they're even worse.
So you're kind of stuck in a loop. So I think that's the biggest problem when it comes to all of the GLP-1 drugs. I think that's a thing people aren't paying attention to. And I think that's where we're getting a lot of confusion, because there's obviously the people that come out and they treat the Retta and the tirzepatide as like this is the holy grail and they love it, and God forbid you say something bad about it. You got a ton of fucking hate for that shit.
I know very well about it.
But at the end of the day, it's like, look, facts are facts, And it's like even with your stuff. I actually did want to discuss this with the pancreatitis, right? Yeah. There's now research that shows that Retatrutide will give you pancreatitis. Matter of fact,
can give you, yeah.
Well, at a high enough dose, it will. That's the thing. But here's the question, right? Because it's still. Were the phase 3 trials completed? I think they're done now, right?
Yeah.
So what is too high of a dose for an individual? For one person, that might be 20 milligrams. For another person, it might be 10.
It might be 1.
Right? Yeah. So it's like, what is too high of a dose to where it does trigger pancreatitis?
Right. And then also you got to realize, all the other confounding variables. I wasn't just taking a little bit of retatrutide. I also just did a bodybuilding show. I took other steroids, oral steroids. I, dieted down pretty hard. I had a lot of stress going on. I had a lot of food intake at the time from, cheat meals, all these factors playing a role, plus retatrutide, where if I wasn't taking retatrutide and all those other factors were still happening, the bodybuilding show, the stress, the food, that wouldn't have caused gut issues leading to pancreatitis. I've done that in the past.
No, but then again, when you got your GI map, you did have you had SIBO, didn't you? That's what came.
It wasn't even small intestine; it was large intestine. So yes.
So you had bacterial overgrowth.
Very high bacterial overgrowth.
I would attribute a lot of that to retatrutide.
Slow motility, absolutely. And so for me, it was multiple months of it built up from 2 months after my bodybuilding shows when I started getting some gut issues.
It's not overnight, but it's this is the thing though. When overgrowth starts, a lot of times you might not get issues right away.
No.
Right. So it's,
I was getting some acid reflux. I had these symptoms that I was oh, maybe it's just from eating too many fats or,
It's when I guess with a bodybuilding prep, it's different because a lot of people run into digestion issues towards the end, and it's kind of even after it's hard to troubleshoot that.
Right.
But we can almost certainly say that having the GLP-1 in place had an impact, a negative impact. Of course.
Absolutely. It can't not. Exactly.
So it's when you take somebody that's not a bodybuilder, that doesn't eat clean, that they're fucking fat and they're used to, they're fucking fat and they have a track record of eating shitty foods and they continue to drink alcohol and they don't weight train and they don't mind all these other factors. They've got no business getting on a GLP-1. I know. At all. So, yeah, that's
a big issue, that people aren't realizing is, if you do want to actually look good and feel good, there are no shortcuts. Yeah. And if you want that shortcut, you're going to realize it's not a good shortcut.
You're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, you're gonna have some other issues that come up.
It's not a long-term result. It's very short-term, and you are gonna run into some issues.
Yeah, you can't just expect to take, Ozempic or tirzepatide or retatrutide without putting in any work with your diet or, with training, with cardio, with steps, and you can't expect to actually get the body that you want, see the results that you want, and look good and feel good.
There's a price for it. It's all these issues that you just broke down that you are going to run into. You're gonna slam into a brick wall. You're gonna lose all of that progress that you just got.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna end up in a worse position because now there's just more dysfunction going on.
There are gonna be obviously some bodybuilders, competitors listening to this. So you got to also understand going into a peak week, when you're using a GLP-1 and you're slowing gastric emptying, it becomes a lot more difficult to time food, to time carb intake, to time a carb up.
Absolutely.
Those factors now become a lot blurrier. So
exactly. Timing of it and also just being able to absorb it all.
Well, that's my point. So it's the nutrient absorption aspect. So it's again, with all that being said, none of us are against retatrutide. I use it with clients. Case by case. It's case dependent. I'll use it if it's warranted. I'll use it to improve people's lipids, right?
Yeah.
It works great for that. Sometimes, but again, we're talking about 1 milligram a week.
Right.
We're not talking about where people 20 milligrams,
or even 8 milligrams a week.
8 milligrams. People are pushing these dosages into places where it's what the hell are you doing to yourself? So again, it goes back to the same thing we were talking about: pharmaceutical drugs and statins and all these things. Does it have a place? Yes, but it's a tool. It shouldn't be used as a crutch.
Absolutely. There's a question here that says, it's pretty similar to what we've been saying. What's the most common sign that a bodybuilder's digestion is hindering their progress?
The most common sign?
Or what's a sign that a bodybuilder's digestion is hindering their progress? So how does a bodybuilder know, somebody who's, trying to build muscle or lose body fat in the hopes of trying to compete, how do they know that they're not making as good a progress? I guess it kind of goes back to how do you know if you have gut issues?
Right. I was just going to say, if you have gut issues, you're not making the most progress you could make, period.
And we would just have to directly look at what's happening in real time.
Are you getting bloated easily?
Right.
How are you shitting?
What I would tell a lot of people, if you want to test if you have bacterial overgrowth, I would quite literally, on a fasted empty stomach, have some kind of fermented vegetable, so a kimchi, sauerkraut, whatever. See what happens. If you bloat, you without a doubt probably have overgrowth issues. for sure. Because that goes back to the argument of like, again, like mainstream medicine, how do they deal with gut issues? Probiotic, fiber.
Yeah, just throw in some kombucha and then you'll be good.
It's it's also like pretty simple guidelines you can kind of go by. Like,
bro, I don't even know if I want to like bring that up what you just said. Like,
I don't some kombucha if you got some gut issues.
I don't want to talk shit
you
about
can
anybody.
Add some probiotic.
I'm not gonna name drop, but there's a well-respected coach in the industry, which I still think he's a great coach.
Great coach.
This is just one of those things that I heard him say that I was just like, dude, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Horrible.
He said that like the fix that works every time for every athlete that runs into gut issues.
He did say every time also.
Every time. He said it works every time. You just drink kombucha before bed every night. Like you chug a kombucha every night before bed. Now that may make you shit yourself, but that doesn't resolve a gut issue. Like
especially with the bacterial overgrowth, which is extremely common.
Right. So
adding in, any sort of probiotic food, something that's fermented, that can help with repopulating a gut microbiome after, whether it's a round of antibiotics
after a kill and clearance phase, right?
Exactly. You do a kill-off phase to fix the gut issues, and then you throw in the probiotic, sources. Yeah. That could absolutely make sense. But if you already have
feed the
gut
overgrowth,
issues, exactly.
The comparison there is really like if people understand this, getting on TRT or any kind of HRT, any kind of hormone replacement, when you already have a large amount of hormone recirculation, meaning you have weak bile flow, your liver's not doing its job, whatever the case is, you're in a situation where if you already have bacterial overgrowth, so a lot of times it's bacteria that's already supposed to be there, is just overgrown out of control. If you go and dump more bacteria on that bacteria, that's not gonna fix it. Like you're just
putting gasoline on a fire.
Yeah, you're just adding more of what the issue already is.
Right. But to even like kind of, I guess, answer that question directly, because he said, how do you know if it's hindering your gains as a bodybuilder, right? Yeah. So if you're a quote unquote bodybuilder, I would imagine or at least hope that you're eating clean, right? Mm-hmm. You're eating like a bodybuilder. So, are you, like we said, are you bloating? Are you spraying out of your ass, right? Mm-hmm. If you're eating clean, those things probably shouldn't be happening. Now, if you're, if you're sitting there eating fucking Arby's and whatever else, and you're spraying out your ass, a little bit different. But you're talking about,
could happen.
Yeah, you're talking about as a bodybuilder, right? So it's like, are you having these signs of essentially dysfunction when you're doing things right, quote unquote? Like if you're eating clean and you're eating the right foods and you're backed up, you're not shitting, or you eat and fucking 15 minutes later you're running to the toilet to spray out your ass, you got some gut issues going on. Absolutely, 100%.
Definitely.
So next question is, can you, I don't know if can you is the right word because you can do anything, but like, is it a bad idea or a good idea, or does it ever make sense to run Anavar or Winstrol on a bulking phase?
Anavar, not Winstrol.
Yeah, I
agree. Definitely not Winstrol on a bulking phase.
It's like what you said. You guys can do whatever the fuck you want.
I'll put it to you like
put it up your butt if you want to. Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend it.
But very, very simply, like if you're on a bulk, I'd imagine you're getting pretty strong. Like that's obviously the goal in a bulk, and you're gonna sit there and take some Winstrol. Like you're probably gonna get hurt.
Yeah, it's gonna dry out your joints like crazy.
Winstrol is really, in my opinion, with Winstrol, I don't really see a point of even running it longer than 2 to 3 weeks out of a show. Because,
4 max.
Because the reality of Winstrol is like you're taking it for an aesthetic / cosmetic effect.
Right.
So, but that cosmetic effect kind of tops out at, I'd say, about like 2 weeks of taking it. Like you're not really getting much harder from it at that point.
You should already be peeled by the time you're putting Winstrol in.
Absolutely,
right, exactly.
Absolutely,
so
should be.
I don't think Winstrol, in my opinion, outside of a bodybuilding show, really has any use.
Maybe a photo shoot, if you're already shredded.
Right. So anything that like requires your physique to look a certain type of way. But Anavar, Anavar is fantastic.
Love Anavar. Yeah,
love Anavar.
I've gotten very strong.
So people say it's a women's drug.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking not. Like Anavar.
Call me a woman.
Yeah, call me a woman. Then I mean,
put a bikini on me.
It's 2026. Maybe you can do whatever you want. But I think Anavar is super powerful. Personally, like I've taken literally 25 milligrams of it, just blew up off of that. If you can't put muscle on in an off season, you'd start at like 25, pull it up to 50 mgs at the most. just do something else. Just
If
go
we're,
play
if we're
golf.
talking bodybuilding, like if we're
Yeah,
if
go
that's
play
what we're
golf.
talking. If you aren't building muscle on testosterone, find something else to do.
Yeah, swim.
If you're doing
you know.
testosterone and Anavar and you're still not building muscle and you're doing everything, this is probably not.
Yeah,
the
swim,
hobby
play
for you.
golf, do something else. But the question was about Anavar in the off season, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of running orals in the off season in general. Anavar is more mild. Like it's not like an Anadrol
really-
where it's
I
gonna
would,
wreck your,
yeah.
you know
gut.
what we've actually done before that I would do again if I was going to do some sort of like off-season growth cycle. Throwing it in for a few weeks in the beginning is a little boost.
A little boost. I would
Yeah.
actually say, I don't remember. I mean, a few guys talk about this, but I like the idea of throwing it in towards the end of your bulk.
I do too. I've done both where like I'll also do like at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think now that like I've done a lot of that, I've found that I'd rather just, start the cycle a little bit smoother rather than just like kickstarting it, which is fun, feels great, but I don't think it's necessary.
You top out really quick that way. I feel like
You could also injure yourself.
you could injure yourself, but I think it's like if you're starting a growth phase, right? Like you bump your test, you do whatever
Exactly,
you're
like,
doing to start the growth phase.
It works.
You're eating, like it's already working. So take advantage of that rather than like, oh, I want to blow up right now. So like, you blow up the first 4 to 6 weeks.
But
Then the next six to whatever weeks, you're kind of like
it also comes back.
struggling.
It also comes back to, and again, I don't know who asked this question. I don't know what he looks like, what his background
It's
is.
actually one of my clients who's in his 50s.
Okay. Also, for him, he's one of your clients.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's doing shit right. But
Yeah,
for the
definitely.
average person listening
More
to
than
this,
right, yeah.
yeah.
asking about Anavar in off season, first thing, train very hard, get stronger, eat your fucking food, get
Yeah.
yourself in a surplus.
Do some cardio.
If you're
don't get
doing all
fucking
of that,
fat. Yeah.
then think about Anavar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a terrible idea. It's
not a bad idea.
Only like if it's necessary. I don't think. Also, an issue that I see is guys will run Anavar for their whole cycle. For 16 weeks, 20 weeks.
Because again, it's quote unquote mild.
Dude,
It's mild. It feels great.
Any oral for that long is like that's
gonna
second-
ruin your
that's-
cholesterol,
That's second
LDL,
to me,
HDL.
yeah.
that's
So
It's gonna definitely mess a lot with your lipids,
I mean,
which is
not
not
great.
necessary.
I just imagine like again like Anavar mild whatever however you want to call it, but taking an oral for that long, like the appetite suppression, like the way people kind of push through the
But it's how it affects your gut. I mean, we talk about this whole time.
100%.
Yeah, it's not a great idea to run any oral very long term. Like I think the cap for me personally is 6 weeks
max
at the very most.
yeah.
So, all right, I think that's enough for this podcast
let's
episode.
wrap this up. We've covered a lot.
The cameras died recently, and I don't know if I switched the cameras back in the wrong order, but I'll figure that
We'll
out.
be all right. I mean,
We'll get better at having some more structure with this as
Well,
we get into
it's
This
it.
was
like,
pretty
I
good. I
mean-
feel like just making it more natural.
Yeah.
I think this went great.
A lot of
after people
brain
watch
power.
us and people want to ask something else about the topics that we've covered.
Still
we'll
got
go
so many
into it.
questions that
Still got so many questions
I
we
just
didn't
need
even
to get
go
the
into,
answer.
but
I think it's just a lot of brain power all operating at once, just very sporadic.
I mean, we'll
but
absolutely do this again. People like it. We keep doing this every week.
they're
Yeah,
gonna
so
like it. Why wouldn't they like
I
it?
think they'll like it.
And the next time, because I'm moving in a few days,
Yeah,
next time I'm gonna have an actual
we're gonna be in
podcast
a brand
room.
new- yeah.
It's gonna be a way
We're in
better
the
setup.
studio. Yeah, I'm excited.
Adam said he'd be naked for the next podcast.
Yeah, no,
I haven't
he's
been
gonna be in
wearing.
Speedo,
I haven't
actually.
been wearing pants this entire time.
Oh. All right. Let us know if you have any questions for the next podcast in the comments.
Absolutely.
Follow them on Instagram.
Yeah,
Edward Katsnelson.
Edward
I'll put them in the
Katsnelson.
in Colten
We'll-
Bunda. I'll
we'll-
put
we'll
them
tag
in
everything
the
in the
description.
C Bunda _. Had
right.
that shit before C Bum was even relevant.
Right.
I
right.
don't want to hear it.
Anyway, appreciate you for having us on. This was really dope.
absolutely,
This is
yeah.
awesome. We'll do it again.
All right. That's it. End it.
All right.